subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
And their faces suddenly changed. Therefore, the number on the card you drew represents the candidate number, which is your target. Liebert made the final decision. This box has recorded the numbers you have drawn. You could do whatever you want with the cards you have drawn. We said these words. Many candidates present had already taken off their number cards and hid them. They looked at the people around them with vigilance. Xiao Jie looked at the number on the card in his hand and hesitated to speak. As I just said, the candidate who draws the number corresponding to the number is your prey. You have to snatch the number plate from the prey, and if you want to pass the fourth test, you must get a 6-point plate. Rib raised his finger. Each number plate in the fourth test represents a different number of points. The target number plate determined by the lottery just now is 3 points. He made a 3-point gesture. The candidate's own number plate is also 3 points for him. Simply put, if you can successfully capture the target's number plate and protect your own number plate, you have passed the fourth test. By the way, if you take the number plate other than the target, you can get a little, of course, no matter what method you use. As long as you get 6 points, it's fine. We will stay on Jingbei Island for a week, and the venue is the entire Jingbei Island. As long as you can collect 6 pass number plates and show up at the gathering place on time, you will pass the level. After saying this, Liebert gave everyone time to react and digest, and then planned to board the Hunter Association spaceship. But at this moment, please wait a moment, Mr. Liebert. Xiao Jie called him directly. What's wrong? Liebert turned around and looked at Xiao Jie. Any questions? I think I've made it clear enough. Well, I do understand the rules. Xiao Jie nodded first, then asked in confusion, but you didn't say what to do if you draw the number of your own brand. I can't possibly hunt myself, right? Your own brand? Liebert was stunned at first, and then he immediately understood. You mean the number you drew is your own, right? Yes, Xiao Jie nodded, and for fear that Liebert would not believe him, he took out the card he had drawn. It was indeed written with number 405. The one drawn was him. The other candidates were also stunned when they saw this scene. Is there anyone else who can draw a number card and draw their own? Xiao Jie, cover the numbers and don't show them. Liu Rio behind him hurriedly reminded him. What if he was a little stuck in his reaction, if I'm not mistaken. There should be only one card in the box representing each person's number plate. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 127. Blocked at the entrance. They don't treat the students as human beings at all. Connected target numbers. 127 blocked at the entrance. They don't treat the candidates as human beings at all. Connected target numbers. Kurapika explained slowly. If Xiao Jie draws his own number, no one else can draw his number. Xiao Jie is safe now. There is no need to hide. The number that Xiao Jie drew is his own, so others don't have to worry that Xiao Jie will hunt them. And his card was drawn by Xiao Jie himself, so Xiao Jie doesn't have to worry about others hunting him. Because as Liebert said, there is only one number card in the box for each person. It can be said that Xiao Jie is currently the safest and least threatening candidate among all the candidates present. No doubt about it. He drew himself. This 1 in 25 lucky chance was encountered by Xiao Jie. It's really, even Kurapika couldn't help laughing. Not only him, but also Liebert couldn't help but look at Xiao Jie twice after confirming it again and again. You were very lucky, kid. He couldn't help but sighed. Like I said before, your number plate is worth 3 points, and your target's number plate is also worth 3 points. Now, your target is yourself, so according to the rules, the number plate on you is worth 6 points. Xiao Jie, who listened carefully, suddenly had his eyes lit up. So, if that's the case, well, as long as you can keep your number safe and return to the gathering place on time when the time comes, you will automatically pass. After Liebert finished speaking, he looked at the group of examinees with different expressions, some envious, some surprised, some jealous, and some a little resentful. After all, I drew my own number from the 25 cards. Sometimes, luck is an indispensable part of a hunter's career. Okay, let me confirm again. Is there anyone else like candidate 405 who has drawn his own card? No one answered. It seems that there is only one lucky person, Lee Bear nodded. I wish you good luck too. After saying that, he turned away again. And this time, he really left. Great, Xiao Jie smiled really happily. In this way, I don't have to hunt others. You don't have to worry about others hunting you. Liurio looked at him with envy. But he was also very happy for Xiaojie from the bottom of his heart. Next, you will be the safest and the first one to pass the level among all of us, Xiaojie. Not necessarily, Kurapika calmly analyzed. Although Xiaojie will not be the target of other people's three-pointers, his brand is still worth 1 point. What if someone in 407 picked Hisoka or Molek and felt that they were difficult to deal with? So they gave up their goal and started looking for a point from the other three candidates. But it might cost more to snatch the number plate from Gon, Killua argued. Knowing that Gon can pass as long as he protects his number plate. If you come to Gon again, you should have expected how desperate Gon would be to protect his number plate. Compared with other people, robbing Xiaojie is definitely not a good deal. According to common sense, this is indeed the case. But Kurapika glanced at the examinees around him and noticed that many people were still looking at them. If it were the case for the candidates who were just a little bit away from passing, they would also try their best to snatch the number plate from Xiaojie. Moreover, people's jealousy is always difficult to guess. It is also possible that things that harm others and benefit oneself will happen. Kurapika thought silently. But no matter what, Gon's safety is indeed greatly improved now, and there is no crisis. The remaining candidates don't have the same luck as Gon. They can only be alert and cautious and be wary of everything around them. After all, they have the prey they have drawn, and they may also become the target of others. After Lee Bear left, the whole scene was handed over to the further commentator, the beautiful Lady Kara. She led everyone and boarded the boat to the island of Jibei. Thank you for your hard work, passengers who participated in the fourth test. She introduced with passion and smile. The ship is expected to arrive at Jingbei Island in 2 hours. Then here, I want to tell you a good news. All candidates present will enjoy free travel to and from the examination hall for next year's Hunter test. So even if you fail this time, you can still try again next year, Dawar. The whole ship was silent. No one paid any attention to her. This made her feel a little frustrated. But since they had come here, they must have come here for the purpose of passing the level directly. Who would want to come again next year? And when they escaped from the island, they were all working together and had a great understanding of each other. After the results came out, when they came to the fourth round of tests, everyone was filled with hatred for each other. From the original cooperation, it turned into mutual slaughter in the blink of an eye. The cruelty of the Hunter test can be seen. There are only a few ways to pass this round of tests and get 6 points. Liurio and Kurapika subconsciously move closer to Molek and listen to his explanation. After all, they have become a small group along the way. And most important thing is that Molek is very strong. It can temporarily bring a certain sense of security. With such a backbone, they can gather here. One is to keep your own number plate. Molek casually narrated. The 3 points on your number plate can be used to either get the 3 points from the target or hunt down 3 other candidates to make up 6 points. Another way is when your number plate is taken away by the enemy and cannot be taken back. You can get 3 points from the target plus 3 points from the other 3 candidates and directly hunt the other 6 candidates. Of course, this is not an ordinary difficulty. He didn't put away the number 406 on his body at all, and he was not afraid of becoming someone else's prey. The same thing happened to Shi Suo and Ji Talaku. This is the performance of a person who has great confidence in his own strength. And having said that, there's still many changes in the actual operation. For example, if you want to hunt a certain target, but your target's number plate has been taken away by other candidates as a 1-point plate, then you'll have to face the situation of getting 3 points again and finding a new opponent. Similarly, when you snatch 3 points from the other 3 candidates, you will also face the risk of being picked by the hunters they regard as their targets and coming to your door. So, if you say so, the most convenient, fastest, safest, and optimal solution, Liurio scratched his head, it means grabbing the target's number plate, right? If he looked at everyone and said, the number I drew is yours. Anyway, if it were me, I would be merciless, Kurapika said calmly. You really did draw our number, didn't you? No, really? I have no reason to lie to you. Even if I really pick you, I will tell you clearly and then start a formal one-on-one hunt. That's really cruel, but I didn't pick you either since Molek was here. The other candidates avoided approaching this place. So Leorio poked his head out and made sure that there was no one around. Then he quietly suggested, how about we take out our respective numbers and have a look? Xiaojia also looked at Killua next to him. Killa, are you free? It's not inconvenient. It just so happens that the number I drew is not yours, Leorio, and Karapika said so. So there is no need for him to hide. As for Molek, everyone jumped over tacitly. With Molek's strength, if he really drew them and came to them, they would not even have the ability to refuse. It was not within their consideration. At this moment, several people, except Xiaojia, took out their own cards. Then, the three of them saw the series of numbers in each other's hands. Karapika's hand, 197. Leorio's hand, 198. Killua's hand, 199. Karapika, to read the most exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. Killua, Kata, Leorio, Xiaojia, all three are targets of the same order. Leorio couldn't help but rub his eyes. Am I seeing right? Is it such a coincidence? It's really fate. Hey, this is quite interesting. Killua showed an interested look. No wonder I felt this number was familiar to me from the beginning. Karapika nodded in understanding. Numbers 197 to 199, 3 consecutive numbers, and they also made it into the 4th round of testing together. Then only the 3 brothers, right? Killua took over the conversation. Leorio and Gon also subconsciously looked aside. In this hunter test, there's only one family that could be called the 3 brothers. The 3 brothers of Amori. When they looked over, they found that Amori, the youngest brother of the 3 brothers, was also looking over here. After the 2 sides looked at each other, they quickly looked away. What should I do, brother? I just looked at them, and they seem to have noticed me. Amori said in a panic. Will this alert them and make them think that my target is one of them? Calm down, Amori. What a mess. The eldest brother, Amori, snorted coldly. The target you picked is number 403, who has the simplest mind and is the easiest to deal with among those people. That's right. The second brother, Amori, nodded in agreement. Number 404, Karapika, has a high balance ability and looks very difficult to deal with. Number 405 is the lucky boy, no? 406, let's not talk about this. In short, your goal this time is completely within your reach. Once they are scattered and alone, we will help you defeat them. The 3 brothers immediately started discussing something. On the other side, at the top of the cabin, the bald ninja Hanzo was sitting cross-legged, seemingly meditating. But at this moment, he couldn't calm down. That guy, he looked at the number he had drawn again, his eyes slightly solemn. It seems that he is not an ordinary student. The other candidates also put away their number plates. On the one hand, they wanted to find out the situation of their prey, and on the other hand, they were on guard against the guys who were hunting them. In this cruel and contradictory atmosphere, the boat has arrived at the coast of Jingbei Island. This is an island that looks like glasses or barbells. But because there is a small bulge in the middle of the 2 spheres of this island, so in the eyes of some unruly guys, it looks like something else. Now, let's prepare to disembark in the order in which you pass the trap tower first. The guide, Miss Kara, opened the passage for disembarking. The approach we take is to wait for 2 minutes for the person in front to go ashore before the next person goes ashore. 1 week later, please return to this place with the 6 points you have obtained. After hearing these words, Leorio finally understood what Li Bear meant by advantage and dominance. In this way, the candidates who arrive on the island first can set up an ambush or trap on the island in advance. And at the very least, they can detect the target's movements. Karapika analyzed it for a while, and Leorio patted his chest confidently. This is actually better news for us. Ah, that's right, Killua nodded slightly. Then let's work together as we said before. Well, this way, we can get the target number plate as quickly as possible and also prevent others from targeting us. When they were on the boat, everyone had already made up their minds how to get the target number plate as quickly and efficiently as possible. I will help too. As the lucky one, Xiaojia has an obligation to help. He has already passed the level, so naturally he has to help his companions. Now, please ask the first candidate who has passed the test to come forward." At the announcement of Miss Kara, Molek stepped directly onto the wooden board. After taking 2 or 3 steps to the shore, he stood there motionless. Then he looked at the candidates on the boat with a calm look. Many candidates. Did they treat them as prey right from the start? And they were so blatant, not taking them seriously at all. The examinees' faces suddenly turned unhappy. But there was nothing they could do except look unhappy. Next, the next candidate. Kara pretended not to see anything and looked at the timer, calling the next candidate who passed. Killua also walked out with a skateboard. Then, he stood beside Molek and looked at everyone. The rest of the candidates. Aren't you guys too arrogant? Do you really not treat them as human beings? Their faces were as dark as the bottom of a pot, and some people were a little worried that they would become their prey. However, their faces were still not dark enough. When the third Karapika got off the boat, he stood with Killua and Morak. The candidates could no longer express their current feelings. "No, that's impossible," Donba God said in the crowd. "They're planning to hunt together as a group, right? Then, whether it is the target they are targeting or the candidate who is drawn as their target, it will be quite difficult." Then, when the fourth Gon carried a fishing rod and walked towards Karapika and Killua, Donba and other candidates were completely confirmed. These people must be acting together again. Then, they will have to worry about whether they are the target of these people. Fortunately, my target is not one of them. Donba wiped the sweat from his forehead, looking relieved. But next to him, the monkey trainer Somi's face was as ugly as it could be. The card he hit on his partner Kamli had 404 written on it. His target was Karapika, but judging from the current situation, if he wanted to get the number plate from the other party. Post views, 475, starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 128. The result of the lottery draw challenge Molek. The price to pay. 128. The result of the lottery. Challenge Molek. The price to pay. Then we must become enemies with this group of people. What's the difference between this and the 3 guys who acted together like the 3 brothers of Amori? It was clearly a game of hunting and being hunted, but they ended up banding together. "Do you dare chase me one-on-one?" He was going crazy and furious in his heart, but he had no way to do anything. He could only sigh dejectedly and accept this fact. Donba. He looked at the new killer next to him who had said he wanted to work with him. "Our cooperation plan may have to be changed." Donba. "What should I do, brother?" Amori also seemed very anxious. They looked like they were going to do a group activity, especially when Leorio also stepped forward and stood together with the others. Amori became even more anxious. "It seems that things are more difficult than we thought." The eldest brother, Yamori, and the second brother, Amori, also looked solemn. "They are so numerous and powerful that we cannot deal with them in a short time. Then we will go and kill our 2 targets first, and after we get 6 points, we will come to help Amori. If that doesn't work, we will help him get the number plates of the other 3 candidates." The 3 brothers exchanged glances and temporarily confirmed it. "Ta-ta-ta." Shisua walked leisurely down from the boat. After looking at Molek, he walked into the depths of the jungle with a crooked smile on his face. That guy, Hanzo on the boat, tightened the sign in his arms. The number on it was 44. Xiaojie was supposed to draw the number, but he got it by accident. Damn it, if it doesn't work, I can only get 3 points from other people. This guy's Sisso too difficult. As a ninja, Hanzo could only suppress his thoughts temporarily after weighing the pros and cons. Click, click, click. Jatala shook his head, staggered down from the boat, and walked straight into the jungle. After 2 minutes, Hanzo jumped up a few times and quickly moved into the depths of the jungle. In the midst of twists and turns, his figure had disappeared from a spot. Greta's face was dark, and people couldn't see his expression. But this time, not only was his face dark, but his luck was also not ordinary. Number 301. He recalled the number he had drawn and the Jatala Ku who had just walked into the room and fell into deep thought. His target was Jatala Ku and also Ilmi. It seems out of place, but I always feel that there's a sense of danger coming from him. Let's wait and see carefully first. The hunter's instinct made him choose to be fully prepared before taking action. The next person to come ashore was Bowker. He looked at Molek and his men with caution. After realizing that they had no intention of taking action, he ran away quickly. The next one was Go-Si, wearing a red vest and a turban tied on his head. He got off the boat with a spear in his hand. However, Go-Si did not sneak into the depths of the jungle carefully. Instead, he came straight to Molek and his men. Leorio and his companions, who were originally quietly waiting for the three Amori brothers and others to get off the boat, saw someone coming straight towards them and immediately took precautions. Is this uncle's target one of us? But considering our current number, shouldn't he first go into the jungle and hide in the dark, and then take the opportunity to attack us secretly? Maybe he has his own unique ideas. When several people were whispering to each other, Go-Si had already come close. Swish! He threw a card in his hand to the ground. It was the card he had taken out of the box before, and the number on it was 99. Me? Killua saw the number and couldn't help but take his hand out of his trouser pocket. So, Uncle, your target is me. Are you planning to attack me? As long as Go-Si nodded or said yes, Killua would not mind immediately protruding his palm into nails harder than a blade. Gon, Kurapika, and others beside him were also ready for battle. However, I'm not interested in children. Go-Si didn't even look at Killua, which surprised the others. Even though I know you are very powerful, I have no desire to challenge you. He looked straight at Molek. What I want is to challenge the strongest. Killua, well, whatever you want. He withdrew his murderous aura and put his hand back. Although he felt that he was underestimated, since he wanted to challenge Molek. That will be fun to watch. Killua directly wished him good luck. Not only them, but also the candidates who have not yet disembarked are paying attention to Go-Si's challenge. This may be a way for them, who have to face such a small group of candidates, to set an example. I'm going to bet on the pride of the Baiana warriors. Swoosh! Go-Si grabbed the spear in his hand, and the tip of the spear pointed firmly at Molek. We, the warriors of Baianu, as mercenaries of war, must go wherever there is war. It is our mission to lead the way and kill the enemy, Go-Si said solemnly. We, the Baianu people, hope to always maintain the reputation of the strongest, so when I decided to take part in this test, I felt that I must fight you. He held the spear tightly, his eyes full of determination. Challenging a strong person without fear of life and death is indeed a very brave character. Molek raised his head slowly. I know that even if I tell you about the gap in strength, you won't pay attention, and it will only make you more determined. So, Molek, move his body. Let me let you experience it for yourself. A breeze blew. Molek had disappeared. Where did he go? Go-Si's eyes opened as wide as they could, and then his pupils turned white and lost their luster. Boom! His body fell straight to the ground. Before his consciousness faded, he could vaguely hear the voice behind him. Normally, it takes 10 days of rest before you can wake up. Just take a good rest and wait for the next hunter test. This is the price of challenging me. Then, Go-Si completely lost consciousness. Molek's fingertips turned the number plate he took from Go-Si, and his eyes looked at the candidates who continued to get off the boat. He smiled and said, "Everyone is welcome to continue to challenge me." Everyone, even Boudreaux, who was getting off the boat, took a step back when they saw Molek smile. But you'd better be determined to die, because I'm not sure when I might kill someone in a bad mood. Also, you have seen the price of challenging me. I welcome you anytime. He took the number plate 371 in his hand and put it away. Seeing this scene, the eldest of the three brothers of Amori on the boat behind him suddenly looked unhappy. That idiot! He gnashed his teeth, his face full of hatred. However, this was not directed at Molek, but at Go-Si, who was lying on the ground. Well, Go-Si was exactly his target this time. But now, with Go-Si's extremely irrational behavior of challenging Molek, his number plate fell into the hands of the other party. This made it much more difficult for him to get it. But at least my brother can stand on the same front with me and face the same goal. The younger brother, Amori, muttered in the back. For some reason, seeing his brother's angry look, he felt better and even more relaxed. He even felt that it didn't matter if he couldn't get the target number plate or pass the hunter test. With Go-Si as a precedent, everyone else avoided Molek when getting off the boat, except Sherba. To read the exciting novels, Go to Falu Novel Network. Before entering the jungle, she subconsciously glanced in the direction of Molek. Then she saw that the latter was also looking at her with a smile. Sure, bah. She carried her sniper rifle and immediately quickened her pace. 384. Greta is not an easy target to deal with. When Sherba thought of the number he had drawn, his heart was heavy. As a veteran who had participated in several hunter tests, Greta was a well-deserved veteran hunter. He was extremely experienced, and like her, he was good at long-range blowguns. It would take a lot of effort to take him down. After she left, the snake charmer Scar Pong, CC Tour, Chief, Jianmei, and other candidates also walked past Molek and others with vigilance and trepidation. They were afraid that they would be their target. However, after most of the candidates had left, this group of people still did not make any moves. This also made the remaining candidates more nervous. My luck can't be that bad, right? The beekeeper girl number 246 covered her chest with both hands, and the pressure made her feel a little breathless. Especially the number inside, 406, made her feel heavy in her heart. How could I be so unlucky that I drew such a hot number that is basically impossible to get? And now I'm also one of the targets of this group of people. There are 5 people on the other side. Excluding Xiaojia, there's a 1 in 6 chance that she will be involved. This made Peng Si pale, and she felt bleak about the future of the next test. I was thinking I might as well get the number plates of the other 3 candidates to make up the 3 points. Looks like my hunter test has to end here. Just when Peng Si was complaining to herself, the eldest of the 3 brothers of Amori finally stepped onto the wooden plank to disembark. Like the other candidates, he was alert to the movements of the Morak group. At the same time, he was thinking in his heart how to get the number plate he needed to pass the level. He walked towards the dense forest. Seeing that he was almost entering the forest, the group had not made any movement. He was relieved and rushed in directly. Just after he entered the forest, whoosh, Killua and Xiaojia immediately rushed out and followed him. Brother, be careful. They went in. Amori, the second oldest, and Amori, the younger brother, immediately changed their expressions when they saw this. Instantly, they shouted together and reminded their elder brother in the forest. Gaga, JJ. Their shouting startled a series of crows, and then there was no movement in the forest. 2 minutes later, the second brother Amori immediately got off the boat and ran into the forest. But at this moment, Leorio drew out his short knife and rushed forward. While Amori was in a panic, he found the best opportunity to attack. Damn it. Amori was so anxious that he only cared about his elder brother and completely forgot about the things he also needed to be on guard against. Am I also a target? He immediately adjusted his position, trying to respond in time. However, the 3 brothers have always acted together, and their individual combat capabilities are not very strong. Not to mention that Leorio attacked suddenly this time. He was thinking about other things and was completely unprepared and responded hastily. In addition, there was someone helping to take care of him next to him. Bang. When Kurapika's unsheathed double swords hit Amori's forehead, he simply rolled his eyes and fainted. Done. At this time, Killua came out of the woods, dragging the boss Amori, who was also knocked down by him. A long dragging mark was also left on the ground. Such a vivid hunting happened in front of the remaining candidates, which really gave them goosebumps. And looking at the 2 brothers lying on the ground, their lives unknown, they were all silent. They couldn't help but feel sad for the rabbit's death. Brother, not to mention Amori, who was crying and wailing. No need to scream so miserably. Killua pinched his ears. You're next. Amori's screams stopped abruptly. Then, with a look of horror, he looked at the man who had said these words that put such great pressure on his little heart. Found it. Leorio searched around on Amori and Amori's bodies and finally found the 2 number plates. Now it's your turn, Killua. After handing No. 197 to Kurapika, Leorio reminded Killua. Killua responded. Then it seems that the last number plate should be on him. Amori. Question. Do I have a chance to escape now? Waiting online. Very urgent. Candidate. Please get off the boat. Miss Kara beside him turned a deaf ear to everything. But when the time was up, she began to urge, and remind him, please get off the boat immediately and don't delay the candidates behind you. If you stay any longer, you will be considered as not complying with the test rules and will be eliminated. I'm already facing this situation. Isn't it just a matter of time before I'm eliminated? Didn't you see that group of people waiting for me? Some people haven't taken the test yet, but they've already been eliminated. Amori is the best example of this. That he suddenly remembered something and asked quickly, if I'm eliminated like this, then my number plate will be useless? Then the people who target me will not be able to get my number plate? If that's the case, then he would rather be eliminated than hand over his number plate. Amori thought in his heart. If this is the case, Kara smiled charmingly. Then you will be eliminated, but your number plate will remain on the ship and become ownerless. Then, it will be the same no matter who takes it. Amori looked disappointed and dissatisfied. Why is this happening? Why are you still talking so much? Killua below was already impatient. If you are really eliminated early and I can't pass, his eyes became dark. Don't blame me for killing you. Click. The sharp nail clippers emerged from his palm again. Amori. There was no point in talking about this. He could only get off the boat dejectedly and gave his number plate to Killua. This marked the end of his test. Post views. 520 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 129, Shattered Hopes. All the number plates are in hand. My life is really not so good. 129 Shattered Hopes. All the number plates are in hand. My luck is really not that good. Then Amori dragged his two brothers who were beaten unconscious and disappeared into the jungle. Their hunter test this time was over, so that group's target is them. The remaining candidates were relieved when they saw the number plates of the three brothers were taken away. This also means that the target prey of this group has been obtained and qualified, and they will not attack them again. At the same time, it also solved the more difficult group of the three brothers, Yamali. No matter from which aspect, it is good news for them. However, they forgot that there is also the most critical person, Molek, who has not found his target yet. It seems they can only come again next year. The Domba god thought gloatingly in the back. Being able to become the target of that group of people and satisfy their prey is also a rare value that these three brothers have brought to the rest of us candidates. Now we don't have to worry anymore. After Amori, the rest of the people continued to walk. Peng Si, Long, Somi, and others also got off the boat one by one. During this time, Shao Jia, Killua, Karapika, and Liurio all subconsciously looked at Morak. They found that he still didn't make any moves. Until, okay, let's start from this time. Domba God gathered his strength and strode down the boat with his head held high. I participated in it 35 times in a row, and I've had enough. This time, I want to pass the level and become a hunter. Just pass this fourth round of tests, and then there's the final test, and that's it. My target is number 246 Peng Si. That girl is a candidate who is good at using drugs. She likes to set traps first and then wait quietly for the other party to take the bait. She is a spider-like woman, but she is easy to deal with. When you meet her, just pay special attention to the wind direction and your feet. Her level is very average. If you fight her, you will definitely win in a hand-to-hand fight. Very good. It seems that this time, it is indeed my chance. The great Domba god was very ambitious and planned to go to the jungle and dig 3 feet deep to find Peng Si. However, at this moment, wait a minute, Domba. The familiar voice made the figure of Domba god stop there immediately. What happened? He turned his head mechanically and gave Molek a rather stiff smile. Nothing. Molek walked forward with a smile. I just want to borrow your things, something. What Domba god laughed dryly. Apart from the laxative drink, what else do I have? Is it what you need, Molek? He suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. No, you do. Molek chuckled and slowly took out a sign as Domba's face turned increasingly pale. Last year, you handed me a laxative drink and tried to send me off, so now Molek pushed the number on the sign in front of Domba and said, please be a good person and help me to the end of the hunter test. The number 16 on it was particularly eye-catching. Domba's eyes were filled with pain and despair. Am I your target? He rolled his throat with difficulty and said bitterly, it seems that my life is really not so good. He had just made up his mind to pass the hunter test and become a hunter, but in the blink of an eye, he was eliminated. Facing Molek's request to borrow his skills, Domba said nothing more. He handed his number plate to Molek with a trembling hand, and then left in a very desolate manner. Mr. Domba looks very lonely. Xiaojia looked at Domba's departing figure, and he always felt that his world seemed to have turned gray. Ah, if your number plate is stolen, you will probably end up like him. Killua joked. There should be no sympathy for such a person. Liurio said bluntly. For him, the main purpose is to destroy the newcomers. Since I have participated in the hunter test so many times, it doesn't matter if I take it again next year. He tossed the number plate in his hand and was in a good mood. Anyway, I won't come again next year. This year, we only need this last test to pass it. Karapika nodded and smiled. This fourth round of tests seemed extremely dangerous, but it was unexpected that it would be so easy to pass. This was also a very lucky thing for them. It seems that we're the first batch of qualified candidates. All we have to do now is wait for the last week to end. He looked around and rolled up his sleeves. Xiaojia, do you want to go on an adventure? Well, okay. Xiaojia nodded repeatedly. The two little brats started their own play life again. Killua and Gon, they know who is hunting them, and they are basically out of danger now. Kurapika found a safe place by the rocks and sat down. But we can't be careless. After all, we still don't know who is targeting us. He regained his composure and said calmly, maybe the other party is still secretly observing us in the dark. You are right. Liurio agreed, then put down the suitcase in his hand and took out the short knife. While resting, he always remembers to be alert to the surrounding environment and movements. This test is not just about getting the target's number plate. He also has to prevent himself from becoming someone else's prey. Moreover, there's a full 7 days. Others also have every opportunity to snatch the number plates from their hands during this time. How to protect himself and the number plate in his hand is also a test. As for Molek, he has no worries or concerns in this regard. Bang! Purple gas is puffy and the White House reappears. For him, it's just another week of rest here. A week is just right. After walking into the house, Molek sat on the soft sofa. Jean sent a message before, and it is estimated that the new equipment will be ready in a week. It's just right for me to wear for the final test. While Molek and the others were either resting or on alert in the depths of the dense forest, the candidates' hunting actions began. The first to act was the great god Domba. When he handed the number plate to Molek, Suomi, who had been wandering nearby, saw everything that happened. When Domba, who seemed to have lost his soul, walked in, he immediately looked at him with sympathy. However, he moved his ears and saw Domba mumbling something, so he couldn't help but prick up his ears. I won't give up. There's still a chance, as long as I get Peng Si's number plate, and then find the other 3 candidates' number plates, I can still pass. That's right. Somi quietly took 2 steps back. Having lost his number plate, Tamba had already set his sights on his prey and the other 3 candidates. This would allow him to get 6 points, but the difficulty was extraordinary. To read the exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. Most importantly, this conflicted with Somi's own goal. His goal was Karapika, and it was clear that Tamba couldn't help him now. I originally thought that if it didn't work out, I could just collect enough points from the other 3 candidates. But now it seems he took a look at Domba's condition and retreated again. Domba had nothing now, but he still had a number plate on him. What if Domba got angry and wanted to take his number plate? Thinking of this, Suomi once again weighed the current situation. I need to go to other candidates to get 3 number plates, and Domba also needs 1, so there's a high possibility of conflict. So, he left quietly with his partner calmly. It's better to separate. Domba didn't care about Suomi's situation. After he made up his mind, he took action immediately. He embarked on a journey to find Peng Si. Little did he know that Peng Si was also with him. Like the other 2, she was looking for the other 3 candidates. Her target was Molek, and if she really tried to snatch him, it would be no different from courting death. Hanzo had the same idea as Peng Si. He also felt that going to find Hisoka would only result in his own death. Then he chose to look for the other 3 candidates. This also led to the fact that the candidates with average skills on the island basically suffered. For example, CC Tour, Chief, Bucker, Jianmei, and Long, these people, in addition to hunting their own candidates, also have to face those candidates who want to get 3 number plates. Their survival pressure is extremely high. Not to mention, there is also Hisoka. He obviously doesn't want to go to such great lengths to find his target, but just plans to kill 3 people at random to get the number plates. It is against this background that the atmosphere on the entire Jingbei Island is even more solemn and heavy. From a dark underground cave, there is an extremely strong smell of blood. Click, click, click. After a strange clicking sound, there was a young voice. Hiding in this place and setting so many snakes as traps, it really took a lot of effort. Jitalaku's mouth sounded completely different from his appearance. Sounds very young and clean, but all these efforts were in vain. Jitala swayed his body, stepping on countless severed and jumping snakes. He walked to the snake charmer, Scarpong, whose face was pierced with spikes and who had long been silent. He took the number plate 103 he wanted from him. As for the snakes behind him, they also shrank into the cracks of the rocks without making a sound. They dare not make any unusual noise or show their faces. All the snakes that did so turned into broken segments under his feet. If they showed their heads, they would be killed in seconds in front of this man. It's not just talk. After getting the number plate, Jitalaku returned along the original route. Stepping on the broken snake bodies on the ground, he slowly walked towards the bright cave in front. At this time, on the branches near the cave, a small blowgun slowly emerged from the gap between the leaves next to it. Greta, who was hiding in the treetops, was very patient. He had already applied a drug on the tip of the poison needle that could immediately paralyze the whole body. As long as you're hit by an arrow, you can basically let him control you. Judging from the structure of this cave, it must be pitch black below. Even if you light a candle, it will only be a faint light. Therefore, once he came out, even if it was only for a moment, as a normal person, his eyes would definitely adapt to the glaring light outside, and he would subconsciously close his eyes. At that moment, it was the best time for me to attack. Greta was ready to attack. This was the best distance he had found, that if he missed, he could retreat immediately. Even if the opponent was very dangerous, Greta was sure that he could escape calmly. This was the confidence he had as a senior hunter with rich experience. He didn't know that there's an old saying that goes like this: those who are used to riding horses are used to falling, and those who drown in the river are good at swimming. People often fall down in what they think is their profession. Tisk. Sherba was very unhappy and threw his number plate to the side. Whoosh! A ninja with a shiny forehead also went straight to the number plate without saying a word. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the dense forest. Damn you, sushi bastard! Shiba cursed inwardly, and then looked at the scrapped sniper rifle in front of her, which was chopped into several sections by the shuriken and still had kunai dart stuck on it. She sighed helplessly. Shiba's sniping skills, which she was proud of, were useless in front of Hanzo. Fortunately, Hanzo's purpose was just for the number plate. After Shiba handed over her number plate, the guy also disappeared. But my journey to becoming a hunter ends here. She sat dejectedly on a large rock beside her. This year is the same. I finally made it to the 4th round, and I was only one step away from the final test. But it seemed like a chasm that I couldn't cross, and I fell here 2.3. If this continues, next year may be even harder. The competition will be more intense, and the possibility of passing the test will become increasingly slim. In this way, let alone obtaining that strange power, he might have died in these tests and competitions. Thinking of this, Sherba hesitated for a while. In the end, he fumbled in his arms and took out the business card that the man who shared his roommate had left for him that night. The Nasra family? At the same time, other candidates were also hunting each other. Bakuer was lucky enough to get the number plate 362 of the target he wanted from Jianmei, who was obviously at the bottom of the list. Bao Deluo and Zizicher also fought for a while and finally won. He took the number plate 89 of the target. It must be said that sometimes luck is indeed a part of strength. Neither of them drew a particularly difficult target, and they themselves were not targeted by troublesome guys. As a result, They quickly got the qualification to pass the level without any danger. After getting the number plates they wanted, the two of them quickly disappeared and hid on the island. Dongbas searched for Pengxi's traces, while Pengxi was looking for a place suitable for setting traps and letting the candidates fall into the trap. She felt that someone would definitely come to hunt her. When the time comes, she will kill this one, and then go find the other two, and she will naturally be qualified. Suomi also moved quickly. However, with his weak strength, he often just followed Hanzo. While he was still searching for the candidate, Hanzo had already beaten up the chieftain who had come to him. "Sorry, if you want to hunt me, you may have to practice for several more years." Hanzo tossed the number 105 plate in his hand, but a few years may not be enough. On this basis, you may have to multiply it by several times. Post views 479. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 130, Red Blind Box. Invention from Big Wolf. A brand new outfit, 130 Red Blind Box. Invention from Big Wolf. A brand new outfit. But anyway, thank you for the number plate. He expressed his sincerest gratitude to the chief who had drawn the target and came to hunt, or more accurately, to give the number plate. "Now, I'm only 1 point away from passing." After saying that, he left the chief lying unconscious on the ground with his knife broken in two, and his figure disappeared again in the dense forest. As time passed, the hunt gradually entered its climax. Under a cool tree somewhere, a certain magician also stood up slowly. "It's almost time to start looking for prey." Hisso picked up the number plate left by someone in front of him. This was left by Ilmi when he came here. In his words, "I came out of the cave fine, but this guy actually attacked me from the dark. I was so angry that I killed him." With the skills of Ilmi, the direct descendant of a family of assassins, assassinating him in front of him is no different from showing off one's skills in front of an expert. The moment Ilmi walked out of the underground cave, a poison needle shot out from the gap in the treetops. Ilmi naturally dodged it easily, and then immediately launched a pursuit. To assassinate him in front of him, this is a provocation for an assassination descendant like him. Not to mention his skills, the firing of those mental nails is enough to make Greta suffer. In the end, he died because of his rich experience. He failed to escape successfully and fell into the hands of Ilmi. Then Ilmi rushed here to meet with Hisoka. After throwing Greta's number plate to Hisoka, he also restored the scene to its original state. Then he dug a hole on the spot and buried himself in it. "I will sleep here until the test is over, and I will not come out during this time. Good night." After sending his blessings, Shisuo also began his hunting career. 384? What a pity. It's not my goal. Hisoka looked at the number, then flipped his palm a few times and put the number plate somewhere. I don't know how he did it. I have tried so many times, but it's never as easy as him. Shisuo recalled how Molek took out various items with his backhand, and a few glimmers of inquiry flashed in his eyes. It's really curious. Even Hisoka started the hunt. Time passed slowly. In a blink of an eye, they arrived at the place where the candidates would gather a week later. Bakuer and Botaro also appeared from their hidden places, and Ilmi also came out from underground. By the way, they also restored their original appearance. Those candidates who got the number plates they wanted also gathered here. Looks like it's almost over. On the coast, Karapika opened his eyes and looked at the Hunter Association's airship flying towards them quickly on the distant skyline. Leorio stretched his body and said, I wonder how many people will pass this time. It would be best if there were no one else but the 5 of us, and then we would all pass the final test. He was daydreaming again. They are all gathering here. Killua was always on the alert and observing the candidates approaching nearby. Maybe some of these people are just missing a number plate, and they want to counterattack at this meeting point. Are there any other guys like this? Xiao Jie looked around. His eyes flashed from Jitalaku, Bakur, and Botaro one by one, and he felt that they had no such mentality at all. Hanzo, who came late, looked a little embarrassed. If you look closely, you can see some spots on his body from the sting of poisonous bees. I was careless. I didn't expect that girl to have such a trick up her sleeve. I almost capsized the boat. Hanzo took a deep breath after arriving, and then heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the flying ship coming in the sky. The process was a bit tortuous, but all in all, the result was good. He put away the 3 number plates he had hunted, along with his own number plate. And the last number plate he hunted was number 246, Peng Si's number plate. Coincidentally, when Hanzo was searching for the last candidate, he found Dongba. Just when he was about to act secretly, he accidentally learned from Dongba's mumbling that his number plate had been taken away, and he was now on his way to search for his target, number 246 Peng Si. Seeing this, Hanzo followed directly. Following behind Dongba, they found a hidden rock cave. There, they also found Peng Si. Dongba felt he wanted to snatch Peng Si's number through physical combat, but Peng Si, who was obviously well prepared, did not give him this opportunity. Instead, she used her own medicine to drug Dongba directly. Hanzo, who saw all this, felt that he had figured out Peng Si's background. Then, when Peng Si was happily planning to find the number plate from Dongba, he chose to suddenly attack. As a result, after Peng Si was caught off guard, it was as if a switch was touched. Suddenly, a large number of poisonous bees flew out of her hat. They attacked Hanzo directly. Then, he spent a lot of effort to finally deal with the group of poisonous bees and Peng Si. He got the number plate from her hand. But that girl is still a bit pitiful. Now, thinking back, Hanzo still has feeling she originally set the trap to ambush the person who was hunting her and get the number plate. After knocking Dongba down, I searched his body for a while, but couldn't find the number plate. Hanzo still hasn't forgotten Peng Si's incredulous and bewildered look. It was when she was wavering that he took decisive action, and then he made some achievements and was targeted by the poisonous bee. Sorry, you should come back next year. At least, I saved my life and have a chance to come back. Hanzo thought silently. Then he turned around when he heard the noise and saw Hisoka walking slowly towards him. On his way here, he saw the bodies of 2 candidates. One was candidate number 34 Long, and the other was Somi with his monkey. Especially Somi. Neither he nor his monkey could escape. The 2 men and the monkey were killed by a single blow. From Hanzo's point of view, they were directly cut in the fatal part by some sharp weapon. And to say that a sharp weapon can be so clean and deadly, and they still had horror on their faces before they died at present. On this island, there is no one else who can do this except Hisoka and his poker cards. At the same time, when all the candidates from all parties gathered here, under the flash of light that was invisible to the naked eye, a blind box slowly took shape, and inside the round white house on the coast. Although Jean sometimes seems unreliable, but Molek looked at the clothes passed him on the table in front of him, with a look of great satisfaction in his eyes. In terms of aesthetics, it is at the leading level in the world. What appeared in front of Molek was a black, tight-fitting Western-style suit. From the shirt inside to the sweater outside and the trousers below, it was full of streamlined fashion aesthetics. Simple, grand, profound, with a touch of black and gold texture, it made people feel slim and fashionable at first glance, calm and measured. I specially asked someone to tailor it for you based on your body shape. On Molek's phone, there was a message from Jinfa. The slim and stylish dark gold suit is fashionable, neat, casual, natural, simple, and generous, which can well reflect the fashion taste. Molek just glanced at the series of praise and boasting words, and then looked at the main effects below. The 2 materials you gave are really good, especially the latter. The first alloy was very hard and was a good solution for making protective gear and weapons, but it was a little lacking in clothing. But it just so happens that after you send the second material over, adding it will make the overall clothing material more flexible, and it will be silky and comfortable to wear. The designer decisively combined the 2 materials together and made a great suit with all his efforts. Even I Didn't Kim is so envious that he said this, and he really looked at this dress with envy. It is not only comfortable to wear, but also breathable, has good moisture absorption and heat resistance, and also shows the grade of the clothes. It is also fireproof, waterproof, poison-proof, and telekinetic. With the support of these 2 materials, the defensive power is self-evident. Even if ordinary people wear it, even if they face the attack of the psychic ability user, they can offset most of the impact and damage. What's even more valuable is that even if it's a person with none ability, this piece of clothing can have a certain effect of isolating and reducing the non-ability that is exerted. This is simply not something that can be made of materials on this continent. Gene sighed again, and because he couldn't type fast enough, he simply sent a voice message. Not to mention that the wearer, who is a person with psychic abilities, can also increase his psychic power and expand his energy after wearing it. As for the amount of increase, it all depends on the wearer's own level. In addition to clothes, there are also some protective gear, such as wrist guards and chainmail, to better ensure your defense and safety. In short, it took a lot of effort to make such a set of equipment. So, after I finished making this set of equipment, I decided to leave the leftover materials to others. Molek had no objection to this. After all, he asked someone to make this set of equipment, and it was so complete and beautiful. To read the exciting novel, just go to Falun Novel Network. It was even made in such a short time, and it was very considerate to send it to me. And maybe they can even provide after-sale service in the future. After I get better materials, I can continue to process and strengthen them. Just giving some of the leftover materials without paying any other rewards, Molek felt that he had made a lot of money. Next time, if there are such novel materials, they don't have to be metals, but can also be medicinal materials, food ingredients, etc. I can help identify and process them for free. This was the last voice message Gene left for Molek. Molek also replied with a next time and a thank you. Gene sent another middle finger pattern. Wow. Molek quickly put on all the clothes and Western suits on the table. They fit tightly to his body and have a very flexible texture, without feeling stiff or uncomfortable at all. There was no discomfort, but it felt very light and comfortable to wear. Looking in the mirror, he looked neat and tidy, and also had a bit of free and unrestrained flavor. It showed the charm and stability of man, and was casual and natural. It really fits well and is so comfortable to wear. Molek casually put on the wrist guards and other things. He also put on the natural boots that he got from the trap tower. These boots can be worn in any harsh and dangerous environment. It can be said that this outfit has no blind spots. Next, it's the final test. After everything was ready, Molek walked out of the Universal Capsule House. Squeak. The moment he pushed the door open, all eyes turned to him. Xiaojia was the first to speak. Did Molek change his outfit? It's normal to change clothes after wearing them for so long. Liu twisted the tie he had worn for many days at his neck, but he didn't think it was a big deal. If he had so much money, he would also change a set of clothes every day without repeating them. He does look more handsome than before. Killua looked him up and down. If he had gold-rimmed glasses, he would look like the kind of guy I met when I was doing commissions before. Who is that? Gon asked curiously. Killua curled his lips and said, a beast in human clothing. Gon, Karapika thought it was a bit strange that Molek suddenly changed into new clothes. He, Liu, Killua, and Gon had always worn the same clothes without changing them. The other candidates who took the hunter test washed their clothes before putting them on. When taking the test, they must wear the clothes that suit them best and are most comfortable. Is there any special situation? His clothes, Hisoka, and Jitaraku stood on the shore, squinting at Molek's new outfit. Both of them were advanced non-masters, and after using condensation to attach to their eyes and watch, they also noticed the extraordinariness of this outfit. Although they were not sure what the specific use was, it was made by Molek, and it was worn by him, so it was obvious that it was not a simple item. After Molek walked out and put away the Universal Capsule House, he also saw another red blind box condensed in the center of the venue. Sure enough, there are blind boxes available on this Jingbei Island, and it is a high-level red blind box. Got a high-level blind box. Do you want to open it? Open successfully, get big and small pills. Source World, Pleasant Goat, and Big Wolf. Well, nothing is more worthy of being called a hunter than Big Wolf, who has been committed to hunting lambs. Or should I say, hunting lambs? The big and small pills are specially invented by Big Gray Wolf to sneak into the sheep village to catch sheep. The pills in the pill tube are divided into white pills and black pills. The white ones are shrinking pills, and the black ones are enlarging pills. The function is that after taking the pills, the size of any part of the body can be changed by remote control. Anywhere wait. Molek's eyes moved, and then he put it away decisively. Good stuff. The effect of this thing is much better than some skills and some aspects. Well, unless it is something like the rubber fruit that can make your body the ability to shrink and adjust to any size you wish anyway, after putting this good thing away. In the sky, the Hunter Association's airship also arrived on time and slowly landed. Dear candidates, the fourth test has now officially ended. Candidates, please return to the starting point as quickly as possible. 1 hour from now is the buffer time to return to the starting point. If you cannot return to the starting point within 1 hour, you will forfeit the qualification to pass the level. Please make sure to return in time. Post views 493. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 131. Written test. Molek the test will test your intention and motivation to become a hunter. Stay true to your original aspiration. 131 written test. Molek. The test will focus on your intention and motivation to become a hunter. Stay true to your original aspiration. In addition, any change of number plates will be invalid after returning to the starting point. If you're found by the judges, you will be disqualified immediately. Please pay special attention. These announcements were heard from the airship, resounding throughout the island. There was an hour's buffer time, and in order to protect the eligibility of the candidates at the assembly point, they were specifically asked not to exchange number plates here, in order to prevent someone from setting an ambush at the assembly point in a desperate attempt. However, if anything happens on the way here, the Hunter Association will not care. However, there are only a few candidates who can really get the 6-point number plates. Therefore, after an hour's buffer time, only these few people came to the coast. The fourth test has officially ended so far. By the last minute, there were 10 people on the scene. In order of the size of their number plates, they were Hisoka, with his own number 44, got number 34, number 118, Somi, and number 384, Greta. Bakuer, with his own number 54, got the target number plate 362, Som. Killua, with his own number 399, got the target number plate 199, Amori. Baudreau, with his own number 191, got the target number plate 89, CC Tour. Hanzo, with his own number 294, got number 80, Shiba, number 105, Chi, and number 246, Pens. Jitaraku, with his own number 301, got the target number plate 10-4, Scarpunk. Kurapika, his number 403, got the target number plate 197, Yamori. Liurio, his number 404, got the target number plate 198, Amori. Gon, his number 405, also targeted himself. Morak, his number 406, got the target number plate 16, Dongba. After each candidate handed his 6-point plate to Miss Kara, the commentator, and confirmed that they were all qualified. During this period, Morak also handed in the number 1 that he had paid the price for when he challenged himself with a 4-point plate. When he qualified and boarded the ship, Hisoka also threw the target plate he had drawn on the ground. After seeing this, Bakuer, who was standing behind, felt a chill in his heart and broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, Hisoka was too lazy to look for anyone, but directly cut off the 3 number plates. Otherwise, he would definitely not be able to escape. This time, he escaped death. With this extremely fortunate feeling, he also boarded the Hunter Association's airship. At the request of the test organizers, all the candidates who passed the 4th test came to the center of the hall to gather. The door opened, and the examiners of this test, headed by Netero, walked in one after another. Well, Bahara also lowered his head and reluctantly walked in. Thank you all for your hard work. Netero put his hand behind his back, looking kind and encouraging. The 10 candidates here are all qualified candidates who have passed several tests. But I didn't expect that among the 10 people, 6 were novices, except for Molek, Hisoka, Bakuer, and Boudreaux. The other 6 were participating in the Hunter test for the first time. Very good, this year is a great harvest. Wow, wow, wow. Netero smiled happily. In the past, the probability of a novice passing the test was only 1 in 3 years. But this year, the situation has changed. In the past 10 years, there was not a single qualified new candidate. It's so great to have so many promising young candidates gathered here this year. The final test will be held in 3 days. You will be tested in the hotel rented by the Hunter Committee. Before that, I hope all candidates can take good care of themselves." After saying that, Netero turned around and wanted to leave. I have a question." When Leorio saw the person in charge was about to leave, he immediately asked, "What is the content of the final test?" "Secret what?" Leorio and the other examinees stared at each other, watching Netero and the examiners leave one after another. Bahara was still a little hesitant to speak, but Molek just nodded at him, waved at him, and let him go. He couldn't help but say it, and if he had anything to say, he could say it later after the examiners left. This huge airship seemed particularly empty. The last time I rode the airship, it felt like I was squeezing sardines. The few normal candidates who were left sat together. "I didn't expect there were only 10 of us left," Hanzo exhaled. "The airship seems a little too big now, but I'm still a little worried." Leorio put his hands on his knees. From the tone of Netero's words, what exactly is he going to test us on? Karapika stopped analyzing. "The content of the test is something we can't possibly imagine, no matter how hard we think about it." "You are such a boring guy," Leorio complained. "Don't you see that everyone is nervous? Stop pouring cold water on them." "Is that so?" Karapika glanced at everyone present. Boudreaux was calm, Bakur had clear eyes, Gon blinked, Hanzo seemed calm, and Killua didn't care. As for the rest, Hisoka continued to build his poker pyramid, sprinting towards the highest record. Jitaraku was still shaking his head, and no one knew what he was thinking. Molek was holding a mobile phone, texting someone. "Karapika, it seems like you, Leorio, are the only one who is nervous in this place. We have all gone through so much hardship to get to this stage, so no one wants to be eliminated, right?" Leorio said with deep emotion. "That's right." Hanzo crossed his arms and said, "Anyway, we are all newbies in the Hunter test, so it's useless to say anything more. In this situation, we should seek advice from experienced people, right?" "That's right," Karapika agrees with this decision. "I have no problem with that either." Leorio's eyes lit up. Then they all looked at Bakur, who was sitting on the side. "Bakur, there's no point asking me." The Q called Bowker waved his hands and said, "I was eliminated in the 4th test 3 years ago. This is the first time this year that we have made it to the final test." Hanzo was immediately disappointed. "After all this time, it turns out that you are unreliable. What do you care?" Ignoring Bakur's bared teeth, Karapika looked at the calm Boudreaux next to him. "So, this where is Mr. Baudelaire?" Boudreaux raised his eyelids slightly. "Do you have any experience with the final test?" Karapika continued. "You should know something, right?" Hanzo turned around immediately and clenched his fist in anticipation. As the saying goes, old ginger is still spicy. "Yeah." Boudreaux nodded seriously. He was quite pleased with the flattery. "However, but I was eliminated in the first test last year." The three of them all looked at each other in astonishment. "You can't do it either." Xiaojia blinked and looked at Molek behind him. "Molek, you also took the Hunter test last year, the final test. I was also disqualified after the 4th test." Knowing what Xiaojia wanted to ask, Molek replied directly, "And by the way," he pulled a scapegoat. "The same is true for Hisoka. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network." Hisoka on the side. "I took the initiative to withdraw." He was concentrating on stacking the pyramids, and he didn't forget to hit back, but being disqualified is completely different. Others, it seems that none of them have the experience of testing the last level. However, I can probably guess what the final test will be about. Bode Luo sat up straight and immediately showed his mature and steady look. "As long as we think back to the test content so far, we should be able to guess it. The first level is a test of physical strength." He began to analyze the first round of Marathon and Shamila Wetlands one by one. The first round of tests tested the participants' physical strength, endurance, and willpower. The second round of tests tested the participants' observation, knowledge, and creativity, and jumped off the cliff to retrieve eggs to test the courage of the candidates. The third round of tests tested the participants' perseverance and willpower. There was also the fourth round of tests that just passed, which tested the participants' hunting and survival abilities. This uncle's analysis was very logical and made people nod their heads frequently. So don't keep us in suspense. Tell us what you think about the last round of testing. Hanzo couldn't help but pick his ears and urged he, "Don't you understand yet?" Deluo first slowly closed his eyes. There should be another item, which is the item that has never been tested in the tests so far. What is it? Hurry up and speak, uncle. Are there any projects that haven't been tested yet? His words successfully aroused the interest of everyone present, and they urged that as Boudreaux suddenly opened his eyes, as a hunter, you must know profound knowledge. That is to say, he was also very passionate. He stood up and said generously, "The last stage is the written test." After this sentence, the whole place was silent for a moment. It was like a thunderbolt exploding in everyone's heart, making everyone shine in black and white, with all kinds of expressions. Crash the pyramid of playing cards in front of Hisoka collapsed. The clattering sound of Jitterkana next to him also paused. Only Molek's phone was constantly vibrating, receiving and sending those text messages, ha ha ha. Written test? If the hunter test really requires a written test, that would be fun. Just by looking at these words, Molek knew that Jean on the other end of the phone was laughing out loud. Well, if you don't know how to share such an interesting thing, it would be too boring. The reason why the meme is fun is that people who understand it need to participate in it and get it. This is too much. I have never heard of a hunter test that required a written test, but I can suggest it to Mr. Netero. It's not impossible to take the exam. Jean kept sending messages there. Indeed, the current hunter's professional level is too poor. Compared with us in the past, it is really far behind. If they have 1/10 of the knowledge we had at that time, then I would be willing to carry out my work on Haiju. It must be said that Jean is indeed qualified to say this. Whether it is repairing the ruins of Luruka or discovering the reproduction method of two-headed wolves. This kind of knowledge reserve in archaeology, history, and biology is absolutely amazing. Not to mention that Jean is very familiar with ancient languages from ancient times to the present, such as ancient Capet and Nankal. Later, in the Byangda team, in a duel with Professor Curdley of Barbad University, he said that he could speak another trillion. Although Jean said that he had not been to school, he just liked to remember things that interested him. But the knowledge he currently possesses is enough to rank among the top ones in the world. Aren't you worried that Xiaojia won't be able to pass the test? Molek continued to broadcast live, and several people were already holding their heads and having headaches. If you really can't pass because of this, then there's nothing you can do. Jean was very single and said, then just try again next year. He was very cunning and would not tell Molek too much about his arrangements and plans. At this time, everyone at the scene was still worried about the possible upcoming written test. I finally made it to this level, but now I have to take a written test. Leorio was worried. Indeed, those who want to be hunters must be proficient in history, biology, and other knowledge. Kurapika nodded in agreement. Without a wealth of knowledge, I'm afraid there is no way to complete some tasks. Among these people, he is the calmest. He is also the one with the most profound knowledge and the richest knowledge. No, that's right. Hanzo's tone was also a little stuttering. I think so. Aren't general exams at least divided into two parts? Practical and academic. I haven't been to school for several years. Bao Cure even held his head and wailed. The whole audience was silent, as if shrouded in a cloud of sorrow. Only Molek was pressing the buttons on his phone so fast that he flew away. That Molek Xiaojia, who was originally feeling a bit miserable, saw that Molek didn't take it to heart at all. He couldn't help but ask curiously, Molek, aren't you worried? No, not at all. Anyway, the final competition will definitely not be a written test. However, in order to watch the fun, Molek added fuel to the fire. I think even if there's a written test, the examiner will not randomly ask some tricky questions that are particularly broad and professional. It's like the second round of testing, sushi that no one has ever heard of except Hanzo. Although the examiner made fun of us, his original intention was to test our observation and creativity. Therefore, even in a written test, it is impossible to test content that is too disjointed. Just like the restoration of ruins and the cooking methods of the menu, if it is these contents, it will be too unfair to the candidates who don't want to become ruins hunters and food hunters. Molek's seemingly reasonable words once again successfully attracted everyone's attention. You mean, Bowker asked tentatively, this written test is likely to be targeted? Well, have you forgotten that when the guide took you to the hunter test venue, there was a basic question Molek snapped his fingers lightly. Why do you want to become a hunter? In other words, what do you want to do after becoming a hunter? What kind of professional hunter do you want to be? That is to say, your original intention and your true feelings towards the hunter. Original intention? Intention? Leorio, Bakur, and others were all confused. Uncle Badaro's mouth was twitching. He just said that there was no basis for anything, just to show off his reasoning ability. But he didn't expect that people would accept it more and more and continue to deduce so much. Even these contents sounded to him that it all seems to make sense, as if it is really the case. That's right. There's another aspect that can be tested. Post views. 508 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 132 interview. Does the president really want a written test? Happy Memory Powder. 132 interview. Does the president really want a written test? Happy Memory Powder. Karapika's eyes suddenly lit up, and he quickly understood what Morak said. We have come a long way and have gone through so many tests. Now looking back, are we still determined to become a hunter? This last stage should be a test of how firm we are in our original intentions, whether we still have the determination to persist in being a hunter and stick to our original intentions. This is mentioned in many literary works. The last level is to test the heart of the tester. Inner. Leorio was completely confused. How do I take a test on something like this? You should start from the hunter you want to be and your original purpose. Karapika returned to his area of expertise and began to analyze in detail. For example, if you want to be a relic hunter, you might be asked about knowledge of relics, history, and geography. If it is a wanted bounty hunter, then it may be possible to consider the many evil criminals in the world, the major crimes they have committed, and propose plans and ideas on how to capture them. When mentioning this, Karapika's eyes can't help but redden again. I guess the other hunters are similar. Karapika's analysis made it sound more reasonable. So, if you want to become a fantasy beast hunter, you have to know a lot about fantasy beasts, as well as biological knowledge. Bakur also whispered, seemingly finding the direction. What about people like me who need a hunter's license to enter a place just to get something important? Hanzo subconsciously asked, what should we do? Xiaojia also agreed, and I mainly want to find my father, then maybe they will ask about what role and help you will get after getting a hunter license. Karapika was also uncertain, or what you should pay attention to after becoming a hunter and the rules and regulations that you must abide by in the Hunter Association. Wait, how does he know what kind of hunters we must become? Leorio proposed a different opinion. What if we change our minds along the way, or we are wary of the guide's intention when we first face him and lie? If this is the case, Molek suddenly spoke again. Perhaps he needs an interview. Interview? Well, let's ask about our personal situation in detail, so that it will be convenient for him to ask questions. At the same time, in the examiner's meeting room on the other side of the airship, the examiners of the 580th round of the test were all sitting together. The table was filled with fruits and snacks, as well as personal photos of the examinees. In front of Bahara's table was a pudding mountain. He was digging hard with an oversized spoon. I didn't expect this year's results to be so good. Sats simply held a cup of coffee in his hand. By the final test, there were only 10 people left. The most surprising one is this guy, Min Ki clipped Leorio's photo. I thought he had been eliminated a long time ago. In terms of personal ability, Leorio is indeed the worst among these people. But who made him be with Gon and Karapika and have a good teammate? By the way, President, in front of Liber was a pudding that was the same as Bahara, but much smaller in size. What kind of questions do you plan to set for the final test? Oh, that's right. Menki's attention was also drawn back. Even we don't know what the final test will be like, Bahala was also sipping his pudding. Although this year's rookies performed particularly well, how many people can pass it still depends on the final test content. That's right, Netero nodded. He also put the cantaloupe ice cream cake in his hand into his mouth. For the final test, I still need to make some preparations. Ready. Menki looked at the bean-faced man beside him curiously. What does the president want to do? Mr. Bean-faced man, I don't know either. He spread his hands and sighed bitterly. I don't even know what the president is thinking. Well, mainly because a troublesome guy just suggested to me that the last stage could be a written test. Written test. The other examiners were all shocked. Even Liebert and Bahala put down their desserts. Written test. Min Ki was dumbfounded. President, are you serious? Written test is the root of everyone's fear. A troublesome test that makes people headache. Even they are not immune. I think it's worth considering. Netero laughed while eating cake. It was hard to tell what he was thinking. But before that, he suddenly had an idea and said, we can meet with them first and listen to their ideas. Interview? Our thoughts. On the other side, the candidates, Leorio and others, after listening to Molek's words, still didn't quite understand. And at this time, dear students, please take note. After a melodious announcement, the radio came. From now on, candidates whose numbers have been called, please go to the interview room one by one to receive the interview. Candidate no. For 06, Mr. Molek, please come to the interview room. Leoli and others. Look, the interview is here. Molek smiled, and then stood up under the pale gazes of Lirio, Hanzo, and other poor students. Wait for my good news, then. He walked towards a room outside. By the way, he also collected the blue blind box condensed in the room. Well, such an interesting written test. Link naturally has a blind box. And what it opens got a medium blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened. Obtain Happy Memory Powder. Source World, Happy Planet. Happy Memory Powder is an invention of the polyhedron in Happy Planet. After sprinkling it on something and eating it, you can gain a memory beyond that of an ordinary person. Well, just like sprinkling it on bread, it has a similar effect to Doraemon's memory bread. Of course, the side effects are similar. In such an occasion, it is really quite happy. The conference room is decorated in a simple Japanese style. On the wall at the back, there is a Chinese character. President Netero sat cross-legged under this character. Come, please sit down first. After Molek came in, they were all old acquaintances, so Netero directly invited him to sit down. This shouldn't be the final test, Molek asked casually as he sat down. It's not in front of me yet. Netero looked at him calmly. Someone who likes to join in the fun suggested to me that I could use a written test as the final test. What do you think? I think it's all right. Molek smiled back. I have no problem with it anyway. Netero took his hands out of his sleeves and said, you are really confident. However, back to this interview. This will serve as a reference for the final test. He put out photos of Molek and other candidates. I want to ask you a few questions. Netero also took out a pen and paper. First, why do you want to be a hunter? I'm just curious about what the hunter test is like. Molek replied, and getting a hunter license is very convenient in some aspects. Even to say, he stared into the president's eyes and said, if you're gone one day, I will also be qualified to run for the president of the Hunter Association. Is that so? To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Netero nodded slightly. So you came here for me. So among these candidates, who do you care about the most? He continued to ask nonchalantly. Molek thought for a moment and said, there are many candidates I care about the most, such as number 99, number 405, and number 301. So many? Why? Because of number 301, I am very curious about his plastic surgery techniques. I wonder how he changed his appearance by inserting so many mind nails into his face. As for number 99, it's because he and number 301 are brothers. And from what I've observed, number 99 doesn't seem to like his brother very much. And he hasn't discovered the true identity of number 301 yet. Molek said, if number 99 saw no, 301 restored to his original appearance and became his most feared brother, I think that scene would be very interesting. And number 405, he is Jin's son. I think you know this, President. I have a good relationship with Jin as well, so it is natural for me to care about his son. Netero couldn't help but look at Molek twice more and then nodded. As expected, you have the personality of watching the fun and not minding the big things. No wonder you can get together with Jean. Can I take this as you saying that we are birds of a feather? Ahem, last question. Netero coughed lightly and changed the subject. Who among the candidates do you least want to compete with? I don't have that, Molek said simply. Anyway, I can beat anyone. Okay, thank you for your hard work. Netero wrote down the answers. You can go out now. Click. Molek walked out and closed the door. Then he saw the candidates pretending to pass by in the corridor. Seeing this, Molek's mouth corners slowly rose again. One of the questions is, why do you want to be a hunter? What remains is subjective judgment related to individuals. After saying that, Molek ignored the group of people pushing and shoving. You can think about the rest by yourselves after leaving this sentence. He went back to rest. Sure enough, is it related to the original intention of becoming a hunter? Hearing what Molek said, Hanzo and Leorio could not sit still. I'm going to recite the Hunter's Ordinance. I also want to find books about fantasy beasts. A group of people rushed to the library again. The next person to be interviewed was Shi Suo. Why do you want to be a hunter? Of course, if you have hunter qualifications, you could do many things very conveniently, such as killing people. If you become a wanted bounty hunter, you can ignore the life and death of the criminals. The one you care about most? No, for 06. I have been paying attention to him since last year. The person I least want to fight is him, because for various reasons at the moment, I feel that now is not the right time. By the way, the person I want to fight the most is you, President Netero. He was still provocative as always, but Netero ignored him completely. He just recorded the answer and let him go. Well, Netero is not interested in fighting with someone like Hisoka. Even if his strength is good, he is almost formed, unlike Gon and Killua, who still have infinite potential and plasticity. He is not like the later Ant King, who has absolutely overwhelming strength. Netero can find some people of Hisoka's level in the Hunter Association. Those people are enough for him to play with on weekdays. Then the next one is Jitoroku. The one I care about most is number 99. The one I least want to fight is number 44 and number 406. The answer is concise and clear. As for the purpose of becoming a hunter, it is to complete the work better. Next is Hanzo. Because he had a preconceived impression before, facing Nero's question, he also truthfully stated his purpose. I'm a Jonin from the secret group, Kumoga Kuryu, and I became a hunter to find the Dream Scroll. No one asked who you are, they just asked your purpose. Okay? I'm most concerned about number 406 and number 44. I feel that they're the strongest and most difficult to deal with. If I fight with them, it may be very dangerous. The ones I least want to fight? Of course, they're the two of them. As I said just now, I have also been through a lot of fights, but this is the first time I have encountered such a difficult guy like them. After a long chat, Netero, well, he was sure that this bald ninja was a typical chatterbox, and he talked a lot. In the end, he couldn't help it and interrupted Hanzo and asked him to leave. Hanzo left with a feeling of unfulfilled desire. Then the next one was number 53, Bakur. The purpose of becoming a hunter is to become a fantasy beast hunter and explore the various rare fantasy beasts in the world. The person I pay the most attention to is number 406. It is completely unclear what he is thinking and what he will do next. The people I least want to play against are number 44 and number 406. I'm not their match at all. He answered very honestly and calmly. Then came number 191, Baudro, the one I pay the most attention to. This may not be accurate, but Hisoka's eyes are very uncomfortable, and number 406 is also a difficult guy to figure out. The ones I least want to fight are number 99 and number 405. As a martial artist, I really don't want to fight these two kids. Next is no. 405 Xiaojia. The person I care about most is 44's Hisoka. The one I least want to fight with is these four people. I can't choose. He included Leorio, Killua, Kurapika, and Morikawa. The person I care about the most is number 405 if it is positive, and number 44 if it is negative. This is the official rational answer from Kurapika. If there is a legitimate reason, I can fight anyone, but if there is no reason, I don't want to fight anyone. In comparison, Leorio seems to be much more temperamental. Number 405, the person I care about the most is him. I've been influenced by him a lot along the way, and I hope he can advance smoothly. At this point, he smiled very manly. So the person I least want to fight is Xiaojia. Of course, he did not forget to add later. I said at the beginning on the Poseidon that the reason I became a hunter was for a lot of money, mainly because I wanted to become a doctor and needed high tuition fees. He felt that this kind of thing must be made clear to Netero. so I am determined to become an excellent doctor. You can ask me any difficult questions in medicine. Netero, after sending away Liurio, who seemed to have some mental problems, Netero immediately called for the next one. The last one was Kilua, who was 99 years old. Thank you, Beixiang Dao, for the reward again. You're really a super big guy. I am so grateful for your continuous support. Thank you so much. Post views 494 start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 133. Xiaojia versus Molek. Do you want to know where Jean is? 133 Xiaojia versus Molek. Do you want to know the whereabouts of Jean? What is your purpose in becoming a hunter? Netero asked in a routine manner. I was originally planning to come here to have some fun and kill time because I was bored. Killua sat on the ground, his eyes wandering over Netero. But later, I knew. He looked at Netero with deep eyes. After passing the hunter test and becoming a hunter, you will learn some very powerful power. Netero, who was recording, raised his head and then lowered it again. Yeah, he didn't hide it. You're right. That's my goal. A gleam of brilliance suddenly flashed in Kia's eyes. Well, let's talk about it after you become a hunter, Netero said, casually. Which candidate do you care about the most? With his brother around, if he wants to become a hunter, he doesn't know if there will be any other ups and downs and variables. I will definitely become a hunter. Kia saw that the old man didn't care, so he emphasized it again and then answered his question. Number 405, he's a child like me. Who is the person you least want to fight against? It's him, number 53. This guy doesn't seem to have much fighting spirit. It's boring to fight him. Is that so? Because of Killua's previous answer, Netero didn't intend to expose him and let him go back. I see. The effect is better than I thought. Netero returned to the meeting room with the information and took a large brush, splashing ink there. Everyone's aspirations are more focused than I originally expected. That's it. He waved his hand and kept writing and drawing there. President, what are you doing? Sats came over curiously. I'm doing the final test group. The final test group? All the other examiners came over after hearing this. Seeing the lines and pictures on it, they couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. President, are you going to let these candidates compete in a one-on-one elimination match? Hoo-ho, that's right. Netero was very proud of his idea. I plan to have a unique duel. This is the 4th time I have had such a brilliant idea since I became the president. Menki quietly came to Mr. Dumianren's side and said, How old is the president now? I heard that 20 years ago, he was already nearly 100 years old. After Mr. Dumianren finished speaking, he couldn't help but wipe the sweat off his forehead. As long as it wasn't some kind of written test that was difficult to convince the public, he could accept any other method, especially a duel, which was the least objectionable test method. President, when everyone looked at the list of groups, they were all shocked. Are you serious? They asked their souls. I'm serious, Netero emphasized in a serious tone. The president's eyes are indeed very serious. Therefore, President Netero, who is very serious about everything, officially decided on the method of this final test. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Soon, the airship docked at the hotel under the Hunter Association. Dear students, sorry to have kept you waiting. This is the final test venue. Please give it your all and get the results you want. Following the announcement, the remaining 10 people walked into the venue. The entire room was very empty. Apart from the floor and the door, there were no other buildings or furniture. Very good. I have memorized all the medical knowledge I can remember, Liurio said confidently. In the hundreds of rules of the Hunter Association, I have already completed the Xiao Qiao, and I am just waiting for the test. Karapik on the side heard this and couldn't bear to watch. You still use this cheating method. Then why is the medical field in medicine? If you know it, you know it, and if you don't know it, you don't know it. You can't cheat on this. Liurio showed a rare, serious look. This is a matter of life and death for the patient. In this regard, he has absolute principles and will never let down the chain. Kurapika couldn't help but look at him, and seeing the firm look in his eyes, he couldn't help but smile slowly. Because of this, they are also companions. Did everyone have a good rest? After the candidates stood in a row, Netero and the examiners also showed up. Mr. Dumian was also pushing a huge cart with a panel covered with a cloth on it. This is a hotel run by the committee, and we have rented it out until the duel is over. Duel? Leorio, Hanzo, and Bakur were obviously stunned. That's right, a duel. Netero raised his index finger and shook it gently. The final test will be a one-on-one elimination match. What? One-on-one elimination match? Hanzo was stunned and his face fell. Isn't there a written test? Leorio also looked like he couldn't accept it at all. Written test. Netero looked at them. You also know it? Huh. Well, the Hunter Association's top leaders did suggest that the final round of tests should be a written test. Netero stroked his beard and said, but I rejected it. Why? Leorio, Hanzo, and Bakur shouted in unison. Since you guys have guessed the content of the test, I will discard it to ensure fairness. Netero said as a matter of course. Isn't the Hunter test meant to highlight the unpredictability? Leorio and the other three. What he said made perfect sense, and we couldn't refute it at all. But it was a blessing for them that they didn't have to take such a nerve-wracking written test. How many brain cells have they lost in these 3 days? Okay, now I will announce the grouping method for the one-on-one elimination match. Ignoring the 3 guys wailing like defeated dogs, Netero directly lifted the cloth on the panel, revealing the grouping below. The grouping was divided into 2 parts, left and right, according to the normal elimination mode. But this was not the point. The point was that with the extension of the promotion path, there was only one place at the top. This means, is there only one person who passed the Hunter test this year? Everyone was shocked by the way the groups were divided. Netero was also very satisfied with the expressions of the crowd. How about it? Isn't this grouping method interesting? It's more than interesting, it's simply terrifying. While the examinees were struggling to accept this fact, they couldn't help but look for their own numbers and opponents. The novel was taken from the Rala's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. On the far right, first there is Hisoka, number 44, versus Kurapika, number 404. The 2 will compete, and the one who advances will face Boudreaux, number 191, and then the one who advances again will face Leorio. On the far left, first there is Gon, number 405, versus Molek, number 406. The one who advances will face Hanzo, number 294. The one who advances again will face Bakur, number 53, and then advance again to face Killua, number 99, and then the last one on the left is Chitaraku, number 301. Finally, the people who finally advance on both sides will compete for the top position. After seeing this ranking, Kurapika's eyes and expression suddenly became serious and solemn. The person you met in the first level was Hisoka. Leorio smacked his lips in surprise, and then immediately moved closer to Kurapika's head. Kurapika, you have to defeat him no matter what. No one wants that lunatic to advance. According to the promotion trend, he was unwilling to face Hisoka. I will beat him. To read exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. Kurapika whispered with great determination, I will definitely win. Not only that, Leorio's eyes widened immediately after he shifted his gaze from the right to the left. Xiaojia, your first match is against Molek? Xiaojia had already noticed it without Leorio's emphasis. He was holding the fishing rod tightly, with an indescribable expression on his face. The atmosphere of the others was also relatively quiet and strange. This seemingly qualified method that only one person could pass was really a bit discouraging, especially when there were monsters like Hisoka and Molek. No matter how you look at it, it's not their turn to pass. Ho 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 ho. Suddenly, a burst of laughter broke the silence. President Netero laughed again. Don't get me wrong. As if the prank of a naughty boy had succeeded, the old man laughed happily. The final test passes if. He raised his other hand and said, as long as you win one game, you'll pass. This unexpected change in the rules made all the candidates look over. In other words, winning the one-on-one elimination match will directly stand out as a qualified. On the contrary, the losers continue to advance until they reach the top of the schedule. Simply put, the person who finally advances to the top of the schedule is the only one who is unqualified. Everyone's eyes lit up and understood. The point is that only one person is unqualified, right? Hanzo began to rub his wristband, becoming eager to try. That's right, Netero nodded. And everyone will have more than 2 chances to win. So that's how Azurio breathed a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Don't be so scary. It will be much easier. He suddenly thought of something, and then immediately turned to look at Kurapika. Kurapika, you must admit defeat to Hisoka. Don't let him advance. Kurapika, could you please be quiet for a moment? And his attention was always on the schedule. Whether this schedule is easy or not, no one knows until the official competition is over. Dear candidates, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them later. Mr. Dumi and Rin also stood up at this time. I will now report again the schedule of the candidates in the one-on-one elimination round. Candidates, please check your turn carefully. He took a deep breath and announced loudly. In the first round, contestant number 405, Xiao Jie, will face contestant number 406, Molek. When Xiao Jie heard this matchup, he couldn't help but choked again. I'm about to fight Molek. Did they fight? In the second round, player 44, Hisoka, will face player 404, Kurapika. In the third round, the loser of the first round will face Hanzo player number 294. In the fourth round, the loser of the second round will face contestant No. 191, Boudreaux. In the fifth round, the loser of the third round will face contestant number 53, Baker. In the sixth round, the loser of the fourth round will face contestant number 403, Liorio. In the seventh round, the loser of the fifth round will face contestant number 99, Killua. In the eighth round, the loser of the seventh round will face contestant number 301, Jitala Ku. The ninth round, the final round, will see the loser of the seventh round versus the loser of the sixth round. The two sides will decide who will advance to the top of the final schedule. That is, the unqualified contestant. The above is a total of 9 rounds of battles. 10 contestants. After the battle, 9 qualified, which is a very generous qualification condition. Now, candidates who have questions can raise them. After announcing the arrangement of all the battle rounds, Mr. Dumian gave the question session. Is there any reason for this unfair grouping? Baudreaux asked first. Well, you will definitely ask this question. Netero had expected it. This schedule means that I decided it based on the results of the previous tests. Simply put, I will arrange more opportunities for candidates with good grades. Hearing this answer, Killua's eyes suddenly fixed. His ranking is at the back of the left. I cannot accept this statement. He questioned, could you please explain the scoring criteria in detail? No way. Netero rejected it outright. The scoring criteria are the committee's secrets. But the scoring method can reveal something. At this moment, Netero briefly explained it from 3 aspects: physical ability value, mental ability value, and impression value. That is the so-called physical value HP, sanity value SP, and appearance value. The most important of them is the impression value, which is used to determine whether one is suitable to be a hunter. As the heir of a killer family, Killua is undoubtedly qualified to be a killer, but even so, the strong-willed Kia still feels unconvinced. Are there any restrictions on the way of fighting? Xiaojia finally asked the Dumian a question. No, you can use any weapon, and there are no rules. As long as you make the other party admit defeat, you win. Netero explained, however, if someone kills the other party, they will be disqualified on the spot, and at that time the remaining candidates will automatically pass, and this year's test will be over. Xiaojia frowned and nodded seriously. No more questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Mr. Dumian asked again. No one answered. Then, the final test begins. Accompanied by Netero's announcement, a man wearing sunglasses and black clothes came out from behind the examiners. I'm a referee of the first round, Mashida. He put his hands behind his back and announced solemnly. Number 405, Xiaojia versus number 406, Molek. Please step forward. Xiaojia held the fishing rod tightly in his hand. It's time to fight Molek. He took slow but firm steps. Although I know I'm no match for Molek, I must win. His eyes were firm and powerful. and his feet became more powerful. In order to become a hunter, in order to find gold, he will do everything to win this victory. However, just when Xiaojia thinks that he can hold on to everything and will not give up. Do you want to know the whereabouts of Jean? Molek, who was smiling on the opposite side, just said this one sentence and completely broke all of Xiaojia's defenses. 0. Post views. 520 starred opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 134. Live call with Kim. What's your choice? Xiaojia 134 live phone call with Kim. What's your choice, Xiaojia? When Molek saw this grouping, he knew that Netero was definitely here to watch the fun. He put himself and Gon in the same group, obviously wanting to see how they would decide the winner. Netero also knew that no matter who he was fighting, he would go straight to the fight without saying anything. He would use absolute force to make the opponent surrender. There was nothing interesting about this, but when he was with Gon, it was different. Do you think I might take other approaches if I were to face Jin's son? As Molek walked towards the venue, he glanced at Xiaojia, who was full of seriousness. Well, I'm also a fun-loving person. When Gon came on stage, Kurapika and Liurio behind him also looked nervous. Is Xiaojia okay? His opponent is Molek. I don't know either, Kurapika whispered. This is already an unpredictable battle. Although they had gone through these tests together, he still didn't know Molek thoroughly. He always felt that there was a layer of fog around this man. On the other hand, Xiaojia's stubborn and pure character made it difficult for him to gain an advantage in this kind of battle, where he could only admit defeat. The other candidates were also watching the upcoming battle. In their opinion, whether it was the observation of the schedule mode of the first round or Molek's move, they were all very valuable for reference. But what they didn't expect was that Molek didn't take action when he came up, but instead said such a strange sentence. Not only did the audience candidates not expect it, but even the examiners did not expect it. And Xiaojia, as the person involved, was fixed in place by these words. Originally, he had gone from uneasiness to determination in his heart and had gathered the mentality of having to win. As a result, after standing on the field, do you want to know the whereabouts of Gene 603? This sentence completely broke the psychological defense line that Xiaojia had built up with great difficulty. You say what? He stared at Molek in a daze. He suspected that he had heard it wrongly, so he asked again in disbelief. I said, do you want to know the whereabouts of Jean? Molek repeated it again, and then Xiaojia laughed at his completely unbelievable look. I know you, Xiaojia, have always wanted to find a whereabouts of your father, Jinfulus. I happen to know Jean, and we had a pretty good relationship. He held up 2 fingers towards Xiaojia, who was still in a daze. Now, I give you 2 choices. First, if you surrender, I will tell you the information and whereabouts of Jean. The second is that if you still insist on not giving in, then I will have no choice but to give up. Okay, it's another choice between 2 options. What's your answer, Xiaojia? When Morak said this, Xiaojia was stunned. Liurio and Kurapika had never expected this to happen. Is it still possible? Leo pushed up his glasses, still a little dazed. Is it still possible? Of course, President Netero said that there is no limit to the way of dueling, as long as the opponent admits defeat. Kurapika understood the purpose of this duel more deeply. Therefore, this kind of transaction is completely possible. But Xiaojia always wanted to know the whereabouts of his father, so Molek proposed this deal. Liurio wanted to say that this was a bit too cunning and cruel, but he kept his mouth shut, because this will also test Gon's intention to become a hunter and his determination. Kurapika murmured, maybe Molek had already thought of this when we were talking about the written test. Then he stayed until now to give Xiaojia such a soul-searching choice. Is it his true determination to become a hunter, or is he just trying to find his father? No one could answer for Gon. Even Liurio and Kurapika, who were close friends, chose to remain silent at this moment. This was Gon's own life decision, and they would not say a word. Although they really wanted Gon to join them in getting the hunter license and passing this test, Gold Xiaojia's eyes gradually reacted. Molek, you know where Jean is. Do you know him? He seemed very excited at this moment. Yes, I know him. Molek emphasized again, So what is your choice, Xiaojia? Before Xiaojia opened his mouth, he added, I will not talk to you about anything related to gold anymore. If you still want to ask questions, I can only assume that you have made the second choice. For example, I know you want to ask what kind of person Jean is, and other questions like that, but this is the answer within the transaction. Molek shook the phone in his hand. This phone was given to me by Jean, and it contains his phone number. I can contact him anytime and anywhere. No wonder. I can make a call on Gunkanjima where there is no signal. Xiaojia's face flashed with excitement and realization. So this is the phone number from Jean? As expected of Jean. So amazing. This is exactly what Xiaojia imagined about Jean. You can have a look. Molek pretended to show the phone to Xiaojia. Xiaojia immediately raised his head and stretched his neck to see it. Snap! Molek covered the phone with his backhand like teasing a child. There was a teasing smile on his face. Xiaojia, of course, if you don't believe it, you can ask Bahara there. Molek pointed to the official direction of the examination. The first time I met Jean was when I met Bahara on the way. Well, seeing everyone's eyes turn to him again, especially Xiaojia, the bright light in their eyes could not be blocked. Bohala nodded honestly. That's right. It was Mr. Jean who took the initiative to find us at that time. In the sick town of Balalil, it was the first time that Molek and Jean met. Although Bahala did not intervene in the communication between the two later, he must have known about this matter. In Jin's contact number, Molek gave another example. It was also given to me by President Netero. Well, since this is arranged by you, President, you can't run away. Wow, it was indeed me who gave it to him. Netero stroked his beard and did not deny it. It happened that Molek needed some help at that time, so I recommended Jean to him. Then there was the contact between the two of them, and I didn't pay much attention to it afterwards. He said truthfully, and there is Sats next to him. Molek finally pointed to Sats, who was standing straight. I got to know him because he also knew Jean. I have only heard of Mr. Jin's deeds. Sats shook his head modestly, but I have never met Mr. Jean. For a moment, the whole venue seemed to be about Jean. Xiaojia was even more shocked. There are so many people, everyone knows Jean. Minki, why do I feel like you all know and understand, but I don't? She suddenly felt isolated. She couldn't help but glared at Bohala next to her. Why didn't you tell me such an important thing in advance? Bohala, confused, he could only scratch his cheek. It seemed that Menki was inexplicably angry again. So strange. So, you believe it now. Molek looked at Xiaojia and said, Sats has never had any contact with Jean, and Bohara doesn't know Jean very well. If you go to find President Netero, think about how difficult it is to snatch the ball from him. So, I have the best, maybe even the only chance to find gold here. What is your choice? Xiaojia, what a difficult decision. His face was filled with obvious hesitation and confusion, not to mention his heart was shaking violently. This was nothing like the battle he had imagined. In fact, he thought it was even harder. Shao Jie simply sat cross-legged on the ground and tilted his head. It would be easier for him to fight with real swords and guns. To read exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. On the one hand, there was Jean, whom he wanted to know so much, and on the other hand, there was the hunter qualification that he had to get after going through all the levels. He had to make a choice between these two aspects. Even Shao Jie was in deep thought. Molek was not in a hurry. He was waiting for Shao Jie to make this crucial decision. The other candidates stared at the rather absurd scene in front of them. It is not necessary to use force. Negotiating conditions and making deals is also possible. Ninja Hanzo stroked his chin. He felt that this was his strength as a ninja who was proficient in negotiation skills. Bakuer also felt that it was difficult to gain an advantage with his own strength. It would be better to choose this kind of negotiation. It must be said that the two-choice method proposed by Molek helped these candidates to greatly broaden their thinking. Then Xiaojia's choice was to let them verify their ideas about the game. And Xiaojia's decision was, I want to be a hunter. Shao Jie raised his head, his eyes full of determination. Before I took the test, I had already decided that I wanted to be a hunter. Under the delighted and relieved eyes of Liurio and Karapika, Xiaojia said seriously frowny face, I want to see what kind of career Jindu wants to become abandoning his son and risking his life for. Well, these words made the faces of several people present vary. No wonder he wants to find his dad. Menki muttered to himself, abandoning his son and family. This father looks very irresponsible and a bastard. I will look for Jin's whereabouts, and I will inquire about Jin's news. Xiao Jie said solemnly. I will do all of these after I become a hunter. Well said, Xiao Jie. Behind him, Liurio loudly encouraged and supported. We will become hunters together. Swish Molek cast a glance over there, and Liurio immediately fell silent. It seems that you have made a decision. Molek looked away and looked at Xiaojie's determined eyes, but you still seem to be reluctant. Xiaojie's face was twisted. It was clear that I really want to know. I'm so reluctant. This kind of forced suppression, the inner entanglement in thoughts, are not concealed on the expression on the face. No, I've decided. Xiaojie's voice became lower. I want to be a hunter. Your confidence is getting lower and lower. It's really unconvincing. Molek shook his head, but it still gives me a choice. He picked up the phone, and under the gaze of everyone in Xiaojie, he smiled at the phone interface and said, Your son made a choice that didn't disappoint you, Jean. Click. I could clearly hear the signal being disconnected on the other end of the line, and a beeping sound was heard. Xiaojie, others present. That's right. Under the stunned gazes of the crowd, especially the dull eyes of Xiaojie, Molek nodded. I was on the phone with Jean the whole time. But then he seemed to hang up, Molek said with a malicious smile. I wonder if he is satisfied with your choice, or satisfied, or quite satisfied. Xiaojie, wow, wow, wow. Netero laughed happily. This was exactly what he wanted to see, a fun scene that would entertain him. Since you are so ambitious and want to find his whereabouts yourself, Xiaojie, I wish you good luck. Molek finally gave him a blessing and then announced, I admit defeat in this round. Other candidates present. Are you giving up already? So casually. The winner of the first round is Xiao Jie. Mashida, who was standing by, announced Xiao Jie's qualification without hesitation. So far, he has become the first candidate to pass this round. In this way, have you passed? When Xiaojie returned to the sidelines in a daze, he was still a little unresponsive. Xiaojie, congratulations on becoming a hunter. Liurio patted him on the shoulder happily. Well, becoming the hunter he always dreamed of was indeed something to be happy about. But why can't I be happy? Xiaojie felt that he was very awkward in getting the qualification. This was not the way he expected. You should think of a way that makes you win 2.4 in a very satisfying and reasonable way, and you also agree with it, right? At this time, Yu Yu's words came from the side, and Xiaojie nodded subconsciously. He also noticed something was wrong and immediately raised his head and saw Molek looking at him with a smile. I knew that with your character of never admitting defeat, if we really started a competition, it would definitely be endless. Molek spread his hand slightly. So considering that Jean has helped me a lot, it is better to admit defeat directly and prepare for the next game. But Xiaojie opened his mouth and wanted to say something. No, but Molek interrupted him directly. You don't think that I am really a kind person? He looked at his opponent in the next round of the test, the bald ninja Hanzo, and couldn't help but slowly smiled. I will tell you that I actually have a cruel side. Hanzo, who was quietly looking over there, couldn't help but shudder. The second round of the subsequent battle was also relatively simple. Kurapika versus Hisoka. There is nothing to say about the battle between the two. Kurapika faced this duel with the determination to win and the awareness of gambling his life. And Hisoka was playing with the poker card in his hand with an interested attitude. At the beginning of the fight between the two sides, Kurapika did try his best, but he didn't even touch half of Hisoka's hair. And the discerning people present could see that Hisoka didn't take it seriously at all. He was just playing with Kurapika or testing Kurapika's strength. When he was almost done playing, he took advantage of a close distance to get close to Kurapika and whispered a few words in his ear. In an instant, Kurapika's eyes turned red. Then he heard Hisoka admit defeat, and Kurapika became the second qualified person. Post views, 519, start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 135. They surrendered one after another. Cruel Molek. Various torture and interrogation methods. 135 one after another surrender. Cruel Molek. Various torture and interrogation methods. After Masita announced the end of the fight, both sides returned to their respective positions. They were all silent, and no one said anything about the previous whisper conversation, nor did they say what had just happened. Then, it was the third round between Molek and Hanzo. He also let everyone see what the cruelty of the gangsters was. Next, the third round will begin with number 406 Molek facing number 294 Hanzo. After Masita finished his announcement, both sides stood on the field. I'll give you two choices. Before Hanzo could speak, Molek stretched out two fingers again, just like in the last round. The first is that you take the initiative to admit defeat, then nothing will happen. Molek said calmly. The second is that I will beat you until you admit defeat. Whoosh! After Molek finished speaking, Hanzo leaped back a few times and quickly retreated. In an instant, he distanced himself from Molek, and then looked at Molek with a vigilant look. Very good, Molek nodded. It seems that you chose the second one. Clang! Hanzo said nothing, and the shuriken in his hand was in his hand. The kunai hidden under his sleeve was also ready to go at any time. The bayonet hidden the wrist guard was also in place. As a ninja, he has 18 kinds of hidden weapons in his hands. It allows him to wait for an opportunity to move at any time when facing any powerful enemy. Hanzo, who was ready, felt relieved. It was impossible to make a ninja like him admit defeat right away. At the very least, he had to fight well and feel it. This little distance is within my killing line. A casual tone came to my ears, and the figure of Molek who had appeared in front of me was reflected in my pupils that suddenly expanded and contracted. When? This was the first thought that came to Hanzo's mind, but there was no second one. Bang! Molek's punch hit Hanzo's abdomen directly, making his eyes full of bloodshot. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out of Hanzo's mouth. Crack! The crisp sound of broken bones instantly resounded throughout the venue. But this is not over yet. Molek raised the two 24 fingers that made him make the choice and gently tapped Hanzo's shoulders on both sides. Crack, crack. The sound of bones breaking one after another was clearly transmitted to everyone's ears. This guy Bakuer felt cold all over. He was very glad that he was not playing against Molek in this round. Otherwise, he would be the one suffering on the field. Even Liurio, who was watching the game, pushed his glasses as if he was meeting Molek for the first time. Although they all knew that it was normal to take such an approach in such a game, it was still inevitable that they felt a little uncomfortable when they actually appeared. I know that you have received professional training as ninjas. Molek looked at Hanzo, whose eyes were bulging, but he remained silent. Especially in terms of endurance, willpower, and physical recovery. But endurance and physical endurance often have limits. Even if you can recover, I will crush all your bones into powder, cut all your tendons in your hands and feet, and then pull them out. Then, you are destined to spend the rest of your life in bed. 3 times is the limit. I ask you a second time. I give up, Hanzo said with difficulty, enduring the pain, before Molek finished asking. He already knew the huge gap between himself and the man in front of him. Even if he insisted, it would be in vain. Just like Molek said, if he spent the rest of his life lying in bed, then this hunter license would be meaningless. Round 3. The winner is Molek. Masita conscientiously performed his duties as a referee and announced immediately, "You made a wise choice." Molek nodded at him and turned away. Hanzo was left standing with difficulty. Then he gritted his teeth and raised his arms, connecting the bones on his left and right shoulders and in front of his body. The piercing pain made even this excellent ninja groan. He is very lucky, Bohara whispered. Molek only broke his bones and did not crush him to pieces. Otherwise, he may not be qualified to become a ninja in the future. The other examiners who were watching the game were also very sharp-eyed. They naturally understood that it was just as Bohala said. Molek showed mercy this time. It seems that you are an expert in forcing people. When Molek came back, Shisua's creepy laughter was heard beside him. I'm about to go on stage. Do you have any other suggestions? In the 4th round, he, who lost the previous match, will face number 191 Bodro. This is a trade secret. Molek looked at him and said, "Besides, aren't you good at this yourself? Just like in the last game." "That's different." Hisoka started changing the poker card in his hand. "I gave up on my own initiative in the last round. But this time I want this uncle to give up quickly." He took out a poker card. "A battle without killing anyone is meaningless. If it is a trade secret, I can share it with you later." Shisua's eyebrows raised slightly. "My secret, that's fine." Molek glanced at him and said, "I'm not interested in your secrets. Although it is a trade secret, in fact, it is just some medical knowledge." Everyone's eyes immediately shot over, including the wounded Hanzo, who couldn't help but look over after hearing these little knowledge. In the human brain, each hemisphere is divided into 4 lobes, and the frontal lobe is the largest one, accounting for about 1/3 of the volume. Molek tapped his forehead and said, "After the removal of the frontal lobe, people will lose many functions, including a large part of their personality. In simple terms, he is almost like a walking corpse. The only thing he has in common with a normal person is that he can still breathe. In some mental institutions or hospitals, this is used to treat unresponsive mental patients and manic patients with violent, depressed, suicidal tendencies. If you're interested, you can give it a try. Lose your personality, become a walking corpse. Isn't this just like a walking vegetable? How could there be such an extreme and inhumane treatment method?" Liurio, who wanted to be a doctor, couldn't help it. "Isn't this just murder in disguise? How can this be called medical skills?" In some backward and barbaric areas, this kind of rough treatment method is indeed used, and some even still follow the practice of living sacrifice. Karapika said slowly, "But this so-called treatment method is indeed a bit too cruel." Bodro, who was preparing to go on stage, "When you say this, have you ever considered the feelings of an old man like me? It sounds like a doctor's surgery. The professional requirements are a bit high." Hisoka hummed softly. "Is there a method suitable for a magician like me?" "That's a bit cruel." Molek thought for a moment. "For example, skinning. There are 2 ways to skin. The first method is to cut from the spine and split the back skin in half. Then use the knife to slowly separate the skin and muscles. This will make it look like a butterfly spreading its wings. The second is to bury the person in the ground, leaving only the head exposed. In this way, cut a cross on the top of the head with a knife, pull the scalp apart, and pour mercury into it. Since mercury is heavier than blood, it will pull the muscles and skin apart. People buried in the soil will twist in pain and be unable to break free. In the end, the body will jump out of the gap naked, with only a piece of skin left in the soil." Molek casually mentioned these 2 methods that made people's backs shudder. Bowker, Karapika, and Gon, "Killua, is this true?" Liurio, who was originally indignant about the frontal lobotomy, froze in an instant. Such method, he just felt a little dry in the mouth. Isn't it cruel enough to describe it? Even in Liurio's opinion, this is simply inhumane. This is the original Molek style? Liurio couldn't help but cast a horrified look at Molek and swallowed hard. He was also really shocked by the method Molek said. Examiner sighed, "This should be extremely cruel, right?" Ki felt his arm up and down uncomfortably. He said it so lightly. "Bahala, when you were traveling together, he also did such cruel things, right?" "Well, Molek has a very good temper and rarely resorts to violence." Although Bahara also felt that this approach was a bit offensive, he knew from personal experience that Molek was not that kind of person, so he still stood up to defend Molek. "These are all good methods." Liber, who was standing by, had already memorized these methods silently. "If the prisoners don't obey, we can find a death row inmate to experiment on." As the director of a prison office, how could he not be a bit of a psychopath? After all, not everyone can watch people being killed and their hearts being torn apart while eating snacks and enjoying the scene. "Well, this is a method." Shisuo thought about it, "but it is too troublesome to implement. Is there a simpler one?" "Then just make a simple and crude threat." Molek crossed his arms and said, "Anyway, if it were me, I would say that if you don't admit defeat, then even if you pass the hunter's license, after the test is over, I will follow you, torture you, and really hunt you down. At that time, There was no such thing as not being able to kill people. Hanzo, who finally caught his breath, said, "Fortunately, I gave up a little early. Otherwise, I guess I will be treated the same way later." At least, he escaped from Molek's hands without any confidence. Is that so? It is somewhat consistent with what I had expected. Shisuo touched his chin and made up his mind. He then slowly looked at the silent Baudreau opposite him. "So what do you think, Uncle?" Shisuo's poker card lit up. "I will also give you two choices. Do you plan to let me beat you half to death before admitting defeat? Or do you plan to hold on until I kill you after the test is over?" Baudreau, "Can I choose neither?" Rather than confronting Hisoka head-on irrationally, the possibility of him giving in is almost zero. Even if I lose, I still have two chances, so I might as well protect myself and face the next opponent in the best condition. Badello subconsciously glanced at Leorio, his next opponent. Well, he obviously looked much easier to fight than Hisoka. Although giving up directly is the best option at the moment, Baudreau took a deep breath and then slowly got into position. "I am a fighter." His weathered face was full of determination. "The martial arts that I uphold will not allow me to admit defeat before even fighting." This is the persistence of this martial artist who has come to this point and practiced martial arts for half a lifetime. "It seems that you chose the first one." Shisuo was not surprised by this. "Even though you are just a rotten, tasteless, and uninteresting bad apple. But I want to see how far this so-called martial artist spirit can make you." 607 persist. Then, the two sides started a one-sided battle. Even though Boudreaux's martial arts spirit is worthy of praise, the gap in strength is simply too huge. It is not an exaggeration to say that there is a world of difference. In the end, after maintaining his persistence for half a lifetime and realizing that he could not win no matter what, Boudreaux did not waste time. He chose to admit defeat directly. As mentioned before, if he continued to entangle and annoyed Hisoka, then even if he got a hunter's license later, he would not be able to escape Hisoka's pursuit. At that time, it would be meaningless. So far, Hisoka also successfully obtained the hunter qualification without any injury. The next fifth round was between Hanzo and Bakuer. Originally, Bakuer wanted to take advantage of Hanzo's broken bones and wanted to do something. But unfortunately, he also underestimated the gap between himself and Hanzo. "Although I can't beat him, it's easy for me to deal with you." After 3 or 2 exchanges, Hanzo did the same thing, pinning Bakuer to the ground and placing his hands on his bones. "Whatever Molek said to me before, I will say to you now." Hanzong suppressed him tightly and put his hand on Bakuer's shoulder. "Don't worry, I won't end the threat so quickly. After all, my injuries also need time to recover. I will torture you. I want to see if you can endure the pain of broken bones like me." "I give up." Bakuer admitted defeat immediately with a bitter look before Hanzo finished speaking. It must be said that Hanzo's words were too intimidating. And as a ninja, Bakuer had no doubt that Hanzo could do this. The gap between the two was not ordinary. Even if he was not facing a full-blooded Hanzo, he still had no power to fight back. Then the remaining time, what he would face was endless torture and injuries that might be difficult to treat and recover in the future. In this way, even if he got a hunter's license, it would be meaningless. He was affected by the conversation between Hisoka and Molek just now, and after witnessing those rounds of fighting, he thought it through. Facing the persistence of a ninja like Hanzo, there was no point. Hanzo's current fate in the third round gave Bakuer a very vivid lesson. With such a vivid example in front of him, it was hard for him not to make the right choice. What's more, he was now in Hanzo's position before. There was no need to think about it. You made a wise choice. Having achieved his goal, Hanzo immediately let him go and put away the sharp knife that had cut the fascia in his sleeve. If Bakuer still didn't surrender, he really intended to do as Molek said. Thanks to the super boss Beixiang Yidao for another 100 points of reward. Thank you. Post views 517. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 136. Ilmi. Brothers recognize each other. Angry Xiaojia. Should he choose his friend or turn against his brother? 136 Ilmi. Brothers recognize each other. Angry Xiaojia. Should he choose his friend or turn against his brother? As a result, this battle went on much faster than everyone imagined. And just when everyone thought that the threats would continue like this to decide the winner, a new variable would soon come. The sixth round was originally scheduled to be between Liurio and Boudreaux. However, considering that Boudreaux was seriously injured when he fought Hisoka, Liurio, out of sympathy from the doctor, applied to the Hunter Association. The battle between Bakugo and Killua would take place first. In the previous round of entanglement with Hanzo, Bakugo did not suffer any injuries. Therefore, after obtaining the consent of the parties involved, Killua and Bakugo stood in the field. Then I give up. Killua spread his hands, as if the match against Bakugo had not given him any fighting spirit at all. Moreover, he seemed very confident that he could win the next game. Therefore, Bakugo passed the hunter test in confusion and frustration. This way of passing the test made him feel humiliated and looked down upon. In facing this hard-earned hunter qualification, he did not have the courage and firmness to stand up and refuse loudly. In fact, he could not even open his mouth. Thinking back to the hardships and struggles of these years, it was really too difficult to obtain the hunter qualification. Bakugo returned in silence, and because this game ended too quickly. In the next game, Boudreaux was still recovering, so Killua played again. The opponent was number 3, Owan Jitaraku. Well, in terms of the qualifications to become a hunter, his brother was a little worse than him. Originally, Killua wanted to show his true ability and defeat the opponent in one fell swoop. Even his eyes became serious, his hands were taken out of his pockets, and his body slowly sank and took an offensive posture. But long time no see, Killua. Jitara's bitter words made Killua freeze in his tracks. You don't seem to notice anything at all. Jitaraku slowly removed the spikes on his face. His face twisted and changed. Finally, he showed a terrifying face that left a deep impression on Killua. Brother, Kia's eyes were gradually filled with shock. Elder brother? He is Killua's brother? Seeing this magical change of expression and this special relationship, Liurio and Kurapika looked at Killua's brother seriously. He is Killua's brother. He clearly felt that Killua's body was trembling slightly. Fear, panic. These expressions that should not appear on his face were particularly obvious. This was not like a normal relationship between brothers. Xiaojia's brows gradually twisted. Yo! Illumi Zoldyck, who had recovered his true form, raised his hand and greeted the pale Killua. I heard that you stabbed my mother and my second brother. Is that true? Yes, Killua whispered back. Mom cried for a long time. Yomi's tone was flat. Of course. Liurio, who was listening nearby, was a little uncomfortable. My own son actually stabbed me. This son is really abnormal. She was very touched. Ilmi's narration did not contain any emotion. She said you finally grew up, and she was very relieved. Liurio, well, this family is very abnormal. But she was still worried about you running out alone, so she asked me to come find you and see how you were. But I never thought, Killua, you actually want to be a hunter. Illumi said calmly. I have to get a hunter license for my next job. I think once I get a hunter's license, things will be much easier. So, Killua, why did you come here? Killua's forehead was dripping with sweat. No, nothing. He didn't dare to meet Ilmi's eyes. I don't want to be a hunter. I just suddenly wanted to come here to play. Really? Then I feel relieved. Illumi's empty eyes reflected Killua's dodging figure. I can advise you without hesitation, Killua, he said expressionlessly, as if it was a matter of course. You are not suitable to be a hunter at all. Killua's pupils trembled again. Xiaojin next to him had a frown on his face. Because your vocation is to be a professional killer, Ilmi continued. You are an inhuman dark puppet. No, Killua's eyes were clearly shaken, but he still murmured in a low voice, you have no desires, no intentions. No, the only thing that can make you happy is seeing others die at your hands. No, because you grew up under the education method of me and Dad. You should understand this better than anyone else, right? Ilmi's sense of oppression began to spread. Why did you come to participate in Hunter Test? Of course, Killua wants to become a hunter. Before Illumi could finish his words, Xiaojia beside him finally exploded. Killua came here to do what he wants to do, whether it's having fun or getting a hunter's license. It's all his business. Gon couldn't help it anymore and looked at Illumi with a determined look. Even if Killua really doesn't want to be a hunter, that's his own decision. Even if you were his brother, you have no right to do anything. Any choice he makes. Even in the face of the vague sense of intimidation from Ilmi, the momentum bursting out from Xiaojia did not retreat at all. He even had the tendency to press forward. "Who are you?" Ilmi slowly turned his head and looked at Xiaojia. "My name is Xiaojia," Xiaojia said word by word. "I am Killua's friend." Friend, these two words made Killua's body tremble again, touching the softest part of his heart. He raised his head and looked at Xiaojia, as if there was a beam of light shining on Xiaojia. "Friends," Il tilted his head. "Killis, it's impossible for Killua to have friends. We are already friends." "We already friends? Really? It seems that Killua has been influenced by you." Illumi nodded slightly. "But you still don't understand Killua. If you stay with Killua, he will kill you sooner or later. Killua has also thought about trying to kill you. Because killing is Killua's nature." "No," Xiaojia interrupted Illumi again. "I believe in Killua. He won't do that. He believes in me, is that so? What do you think?" Illumi slowly turned his head and looked at Killua, whose body was no longer trembling. "Yes, it is, I said yes." Killua raised his head and for the first time had the courage to face Illumi. "I'm tired of killing people. I want to be friends with Xiaojia." Xiaojia, standing there, gave Killua the greatest confidence. "I want to play with him like a normal person." His voice was still low, but this time his tone was very firm. When Xiaojia heard this, he immediately grinned and showed a very bright smile to Killua. To read the exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. Hisoka, who was standing behind him, looked at the big scene in front of him and couldn't help but tremble with excitement. They are really two extremely sweet green fruits. It really seems that they should be harvested quickly. "Here, wipe your mouth. Your saliva is about to flow out." Molek next to him was very considerate and handed him a tissue. He was also watching this big drama of brothers meeting. Of course, the most important thing was that in the center of the venue, after Ilmi appeared, the blind box that was looming and emitting dazzling brilliance. "No, you can't have friends." Ilmi rejected it immediately. "Friends are impossible for you. When others see you, you will only judge whether to kill this person or not, because this is the concept we have instilled in you. The reason you feel this way now is because Xiaojia is too eye-catching and hard for you to figure out. You don't really want to be friends with him." "No." For the first time, Killua refuted his brother so loudly. "Xiaojia is my friend." Xiaojia was standing next to him, supporting him. This gave Killua the greatest confidence to say this. "Is that so?" Upon hearing this, Ilmi's pupils became darker. "It seems that you're too deeply influenced by Xiaojia. That's not easy." Ilmi's gaze slowly moved towards Xiaojia, who was standing there. "I'll help you kill him." He said these extremely cold words out of his sincere consideration for Killua. "A killer can't have friends. They'll only get in your way." Illumi turned around and faced Gon. The latter had already held the fishing rod and was ready. Shwa! Leorio drew out his short sword in an instant, and Kurapika took out the double swords on his back. Even Hisoka's smile disappeared. "Wait a minute!" Killua shouted loudly when he saw this. His figure quickly blocked Illumi's way. "What are you doing, Killua?" Illumi had already taken out a few mind nails in his hand. "I'm helping you clear the obstacles, let you understand what you really need. I know what I'm doing." Killua was very excited. "You want to kill Gon, right? Use the power you hold." Ilmi paused for a moment. "Do you know?" Ilmi looked at him steadily and said, "According to your family's opinion, it's not the right time for you to get in touch with her. It's a bit too early. Did you learn it during this test?" He began to look at the examiners and then turned back. He and Killua took the test together and passed it. It was not leaked by the examiners, so it must be Ilmi's attention stayed on Hisoka for a moment. Then he looked at Molek. "Is it a trap tower?" Although it was a question, the tone was very certain. "Only in that place. You are out of my sight. It seems that Mr. Molek told you about this." I didn't take the initiative to explain it to him. He realized it himself. Molek spread his hands slightly. "Since you let Killua out to participate in the hunter test, you should be prepared for this aspect. After all, at his level, he is fully capable of starting to make contact. That being said, Illumi thought for a moment and said, "Forget it. Killua's affairs in this regard will be decided by his father and grandfather." Mr. Molek, Ilmi still had that emotionless look on his face. "Because of what happened in the Sky Arena, my family wants to meet you." "Just a meeting?" Molek laughed and said, "Don't you want to kill me? If that's the case, that's the best." Ilmi didn't refute, "But the risk is too great. We never do business at a loss." The examiners on the side looked at Molek with different eyes. Originally, they just thought Molek's strength was very tricky and he might be very strong and difficult to deal with. But unexpectedly, even the world's #1 assassination family, the Zoldyck family, gave an evaluation that the risk was too great. It seems that they have to get to know Molek again. As for Bahala, he was not surprised at all. He still remembers the shock wave, moves of Kamehameha. Hoo. Netero just stroked his beard and smiled the whole time, without expressing any opinions. How could a guy who could get the recognition and help of Jean be an ordinary person? On the contrary, Xiaojia, Liurio, Kurapika, and others have not known too much about this world and do not understand the value of this sentence. What they care about is what Killua said. Strange power. Then, the two of them also thought of the scene in the trap tower where Molek smashed the wall with one hand. At this time, they subconsciously looked at each other and nodded. Obviously, this world is not as simple as they imagined. If I have time, I will go to Kukula Mountain. Okay. Molek didn't say it for sure. And Kukula Mountain is also an important check-in point for getting blind boxes. I see, Illumi nodded. Then he looked at Killua and gone. Now, you're like a child who keeps asking for a dog and promises to take care of the dog. But the love of children is only at the beginning, but one day they will get bored and think that taking care of the dog is tiring. Xiaojia, you are the dog. He was very upset and felt offended. But Kurapika and Liurio beside him, in terms of his ability to smell, Xiaojia is similar to a dog in some ways. But since the other party already considers you as a friend, killing him is the best option. Professional killers don't need friends. Friends will only get in the way. Yilmi tilted his head. But if I kill Xiaojia now, I will be eliminated. So still, his eyes flickered over Liurio, Kurapika, and gone one by one. I'll kill you after I pass the test. Just like Mr. Molek said, even if I killed all of you at that time, the committee should not revoke my license, right? He turned back and looked at Netero. Well, it's fine according to the regulations. The latter nodded slightly. Did you hear that, Killua? Illumi put the key point of everything on Killua again. If you can't beat me, there's no way to save Xiaojia. His aura began to gather quietly. Will you turn against your brother for your friend? Become enemies? No way. A telekinesis began to slowly release. Because you should know pregnancy, regardless of whether friends are important or not. The question now is, thanks to GGT 1985 for the reward on QQ yesterday. Thank you. Post-views. 605 start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 137. The fourth purple blind box. It can attack and defend. It has a wide range and strong power. It is officially over. Harvest 137, the fourth purple blind box. It can attack and defend. It has a wide range and strong power. It is officially over. Harvest Illumi said the cold and cruel fact. With your strength, there is no way you can defeat me. Killua, of course he knew this. And he also knew that what Ilmi said about killing everyone afterwards was not a joke. He really thought so. And he really had the ability to do so. You already have the answer in your heart. You can't beat me. Illumi walked slowly towards Killua, whose body was stiff again. Don't forget, don't fight a battle you're not sure of. The telekinesis of the control system spreads towards Killua. Isn't that me? The one who keeps reminding you of the rules of engagement? Illumi stretched out his hand towards Killua, who seemed to have no resistance. His telekinesis began to move the telekinesis needle in Killua's head. He wanted to continue to strengthen the telekinesis needle here and strengthen his control over Killua. But at this moment, I think it's good to listen to Killua's own thoughts sometimes. The voice next to him made Illumi pause. Molek, Xiaojia, who originally wanted to support Killua, immediately looked at him when he saw Morak stand up. You also think that Killua should listen to you, right? Everyone should follow their own heart, Molek replied to him, and then looked at the venue. But it is also a good thing to listen to the opinions of the elders. But the elders I'm talking about are those of the same generation or above. Molek interrupted Xiaojia, who was anxious, not peers like brothers. Moreover, brothers should not influence each other too much. Even to manipulate and control, Molek said without hesitation. What do you want to say? Illumi asked unmoved. His abnormal and deep love for Killua, as well as his extreme desire for control, would not let him be shaken by anyone's words. I mean, as for Killua making friends, you can let his father and grandfather handle it. Molek gave a reasonable suggestion. Maybe they will have a different view on this. That's right, Xiaojia immediately followed up in support. If it were my family, Aunt Mit would definitely support me in making friends. And if I bring Killua home, Aunt Mit will definitely be happy. Is that so? Molek looked at Xiaojia. Since you think your family will support you as a friend, so after the test, you can follow 077 Killua back home to see what Killua's family's attitude is like. Okay. Xiaojia agreed without thinking. He put himself in other people's shoes and didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Xiaojia, Killua, who was nervously facing Illumi, was startled at first, and then his face changed immediately. The environment and attitude of Kukuru Mountain, where his family lived, were completely different from those of ordinary families in the outside world. Come to our house. That's a good idea. After hearing this, Ilmi thought it was a good idea. It's just right, I can let my dad teach you a lesson. He looked at Gon again, and at Liurio and Karapika, who were still standing firmly on the same side with Gon. And you, Illumi firmly believed that his family would never let Killua make friends. At least, he believed that his mother would not be able to pass the test. Then after the test is over, we will go to Killua's house. Xiaojia's eyes were particularly determined. I will tell Killua's parents that I am his friend. Xiaojia, Killua's eyes flashed with emotion, but he was still worried about the situation at home. Just when he was about to refuse, since we are friends, then it is no problem to invite you to my home. Molek said calmly. As for what attitude your family members will have at that time, it depends more on you. He smiled and said, it depends on whether you are sincere. Killua, he was silent. Then, his eyes became firm. Since Xiaojia was willing to go to his house for him, how could he not do something for it? Well, if you come to my house, my family will treat you well. Ilmi didn't think it was a bad thing. Maybe the three guys in front of him couldn't even open the Yellow Springs gate of their house. They couldn't even pass Sandmao, let alone their family. And even if they managed to push the gap open and squeeze in, there was Canaria in the courtyard, and the housekeeper Wudong and his mother were in the house. With such a configuration, Ilmi didn't think that Xiaojia and his group could get out of the Zoldyck family. At that time, if Killua could witness the unbearableness of this group of guys with his own eyes, he might automatically feel disappointed. So in the future, he would never think of looking for friends again. It would be much more impressive for him to wake up by himself than for outsiders to interfere. Well, this is a good solution. Ilmi nodded in his heart. However, the problem of friends has been solved, but at the moment, the problem of becoming a hunter, the two brothers still have to fight a battle. Killua, do you think you can be my opponent? Illumi once again reiterated the question. If you think that you have the courage to continue to resist me as your brother after having friends, then you can try. Once our bodies start to touch, it means we're going to fight. You should know the only way to stop this fight, right? I give up. Even though he had his friend Xiaojia, who had the power of the needle in front of Ilmi, he still couldn't resist his brother. That's great. Ilmi clasped his hands together. In this way, there will be no need for brothers to kill each other. It seems that even after you have so-called friends, you still haven't forgotten your instincts. He stepped forward and patted Killua's shoulder. And I was lying to you, Killua. Illumi glanced at Hisoka in the corner from the corner. After he said he wanted to kill Gon, Hisoka's murderous intent had always been aimed at him. I said I was going to kill Xiaojia, but I was actually lying to you. He ruffled Killua's silver hair. Well, after we get to Kukuroka Mountain, the others will know what to do. I still think you don't need to make friends. Now you just need to do the same as before. Listen to what Dad said to me, and carry out your mission wholeheartedly. After leaving such a sentence that made Xiaojia and Liurio beside him extremely annoyed and unhappy, Ilmi stood directly in the opposite direction of the few people. It was not that he did not want to face the anger of the few people, but that he might not be able to help but attack them. After such a storm, Ilmi became another qualified person. Then, it was the battle between Leorio and Boudreaux. Compared with the previous matches that were so easy, one side admitted defeat, and the duel did not waste much time. This time the battle between the two was a rare and exciting match in this final test. Boudreaux, who was originally a martial artist, was obviously stronger than Leorio, both in terms of his experience and his well-honed skills. But for ordinary people, the fist is afraid of the young, and Boudreaux had been seriously injured before. What he has to face, but no one consuming Leorio, who is at the peak of his energy. To read the exciting novels, go to Falun Novel Network. 2 battles that didn't take up much time at all were not enough for him to recover from the injuries accumulated in the match with Hisoka. This also resulted in the fact that both of them had their own strengths and weaknesses. It also contributed a real match to everyone present. The two sides fought back and forth for several hours. In the end, Boudreaux was the first to fall because of physical exhaustion and the accumulation of injuries. Leorio did not take advantage of the situation to threaten him. Even out of respect, he did not use his short sword weapon to deal with Boudreaux, who was unarmed. Boudreaux was also well aware of this, and as a fighter, he also had his own style. After knowing that he had been defeated by Leorio, he was not so ugly as to continue to pester him desperately. I admit defeat. The winner has been decided, and I cannot lose my last bit of dignity. However, the bitter words of the old senior's final surrender contained a deep sense of loss. He had come this far, but he still couldn't hold on to the end. He was only one step away from the hunter license he had been thinking about day and night. But in the end, it was like a natural chasm that completely blocked him. In the subsequent final round, the battle between him and Killua was actually meaningless. He was unwilling to fight with children and with the accumulated injuries on his body. Facing Killua, he had no chance of winning. In the end, it ended in a sad ending. As for Killua's passing and getting a hunter's license for this, Illumi was not worried at all. As long as Killua returns home, his mother, father, and grandfather will tell Killua what to do. Maybe he will even be given some more arduous work tasks. And in these tasks, maybe like him, he still needs a hunter's license. Then there is no need to pass the test again. Anyway, what he cares about is that Killua cannot become a hunter, and the hunter's license that can provide them with work convenience can be received as is. In this way, this hunter test also came to a successful conclusion. Bakuer and Hanzo breathed a sigh of relief. Leorio, Kurapika, and Gon all smiled from the bottom of their hearts. Great Killua! Xiaojia stepped forward and said happily to Killua, who was walking down. We all passed the test and became hunters. Yes, yes. Killua's smile was a bit forced. He once again glanced at Ilmi, who was still expressionless. He knew that passing the test was just the beginning. If he really went to his house later, he would face the real test. Hisoka continued to play poker next to him. For him, the game of this test was over. In addition to obtaining a hunter's license that allowed him to hunt prisoners at will and kill people very conveniently, he also discovered several very tempting and delicious green apples. When they grow up in the future, the taste will definitely be very good. Thinking of this, Hisoka couldn't help but stick out his tongue and purse the corners of his mouth. He was simply more satisfied with this hunter test, and Molek was also satisfied with this. After this hunter test came to an end and the final qualified person was selected, the blind box in the field was also slowly formed. Moreover, it was the blind box that released a dazzling purple glow. So far, Molek has received a total of 4 purple blind boxes. The first time was in the Sky Arena, when Netero started with Master Rashi's 100 years of martial arts experience. The second time was at the beginning of the hunter test, when many plot candidates were present. The nature Fong in Inuyasha that can resurrect others was opened. One laid the foundation for Molek's current strength, and the other gave Molek external auxiliary capabilities. The third time was when Netero showed up to preside over the second round of tests, and it was Supercell Regeneration, from Majin Buu in Dragon Ball, an internal self-preservation ability. Then this fourth one was born in a purple blind box at the end of the hunter test. I got a special blind box. Do you want to open it? Successfully opened. Obtained. Shinra Tensei. Source World. Naruto. As expected, the fourth purple blind box opened the ultimate skill with extremely strong offensive power. And it is also a group attack, the famous Shinra Tensei, the ability of the Samsara Eye of the second pillar, Uchiha Sasuke. Well, based on the two brothers Illumi and Killua who are so friendly and respectful to each other. The blind box opened is naturally related to the love of the famous brothers Uchiha Itachi and Uchiha Sasuke in the anime world. Shinra Tensei is just a ninjutsu that is remembered by countless Naruto viewers, and it is also a ninjutsu that makes countless people crazy. One of the signature ninjutsu of Tendo Pain, it can bounce all the surrounding objects and ninjutsu around itself and cause damage to them. It can attack and defend is its label, and its wide range and strong power are its characteristics. This is also a ninjutsu that makes Konoha people extremely afraid. This once raised the entire Konoha to the ground and made the world feel pain. With such a move as the final ending of the hunter test, Molek felt that it was quite good. And looking back at the gains from this hunter test, the Dragon Balls that opened the plot test on Whale Island. 2 stars, 4 stars, and 5 stars. The time digital alloy on the Poseidon has been made into equipment and protective gear on the body. Choose one of the 2 heartbeats and ask and answer the explosion point and ram a half from the mother-in-law. The enhanced spinach of Popeye from the Evil Fox family. The super chef skills from Cooking Master Boy in the steakhouse in Saba City. The Tensna that can revive people from Inuyasha when he arrives at the venue and starts the hunter test plot. The Rasengan was obtained by testing the real and fake examiner, the ape. In the Shimaru wetland, Hisoka played the examiner role and obtained the Thunder God Pearl from 9 Dragon Balls. The second round of testing was also the legendary kitchenware from Cooking Master Boy, the Garuda Sword. Then, Netero came to administer justice, and Majin Buu's Supercell regeneration. When grabbing the ball on the airship, he obtained the Sunwheel Sword from the world of Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, and the Misguidance from Kuriko's basketball. Then, in the third round of testing, he obtained the natural boots from the Magic Tower at the Trap Tower, which became his equipment. At the Road of Majority Decision, he killed Togari, who came for revenge, and obtained the Vibranium from the Marvel world. Together with the Time Digital Alloy, this set of equipment was forged. On Gunkanjima, I got the Time Stop skill, Zen Seal, from Armor Hero. Hunting on Jinbei Island yielded big and small pills, an invention of Big Big Wolf from the Pleasant Goat and Big Big Wolf world. Before the final test, I guessed that I would get Happy Memory Powder from Happy Planet in the written test. And at the end of this test, I finally got Shinra Tensei. It can be said that I've gained a lot. Auxiliary abilities, offensive abilities, and items that can play an important role. Thanks to Pop for the 588-point reward. Thanks for your support. Post views. 514. Start opening unlimited blind boxes from Hunter x Hunter Chapter 138. Know the existence of thoughts. Our Kamesun Ryu is not weaker than the Hard Origin Ryu 138. Know the existence of thoughts. Our Kamesun Ryu is not weaker than the Hard Origin Ryu. It's basically a wave of fat. More than 90% of the things that come out of this hunter test are red blind boxes or above. The blind boxes obtained in the past few years are far less than what you get in this hunter test. Later, the few people who passed the test and got the hunter license came to the huge conference room under the guidance of Mr. Beanface Man. He explained in detail the role of the hunter licenses obtained by everyone, as well as the benefits and privileges after becoming a hunter. The content is just as advertised by the Hunter Association, and there is not much to say. But at the end of the explanation, Mr. Beanface Man also made a special friendly reminder. Although the hunter's license has many powerful functions, as long as you have it, you will basically have no worries about food and clothing for the rest of your life. But if the license is lost, it cannot be reissued. Mr. Dumian Ren made an important statement. According to our statistics, 1 in 5 of those who pass the test will lose their license within a year. So please be careful not to lose or steal it. Then, the first test after becoming a professional hunter is the guardian license. Now, I will introduce the relevant regulations of the association to you. There was another round of explanations about the association's internal regulations, but almost no one listened or paid attention. They were all carefully looking at the thing in their hands that they were risking their lives to get. The briefing ends here. After finishing the routine work, Mr. Demian Wren also smiled. It's up to you guys later. Please believe in yourself, remove obstacles, and move forward towards your dream. He faced the people sitting in front of him and said loudly, I hereby declare that the 9 of you will become new hunters. Another wave of fresh blood joined the Hunter Association. And this time there are many. All of them are very outstanding newcomers. Among the 9 qualified people, 6 are newcomers, just as the president said. It is a well-deserved bumper harvest. Mr. Demian Wren finished his work and wanted to end and return to the Hunter Association. But at this time, after passing the hunter test, Karapika raised his hand at this time. Is there anything else you want to tell us? For example, as a professional hunter, the power, he is not a fool. After so many explicit or implicit reminders and demonstrations, as well as his own observations, Karapika also discovered that these professional hunters all use a kind of unknown power. And this power is the key to his capture of the Phantom Troop. This word, when asked this question, Mr. Demian Wren just smiled. This question can be answered in the subsequent professional hunter career. Don't forget that protecting your hunter's license is also an important part of being a hunter. He left behind a meaningful sentence that made Karapika think deeply, and then he left. It seems that this hunter's license must be protected. After the explanation, it was time to say goodbye. Everyone, when you step out of this building, you'll be hunter.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.